This is the October 27th meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. And thank you for coming out on this cold, rainy evening. Just a few announcements to make tonight. Update on Hillside Lake. Just this past week, we finally got approval from the Army Corps of Engineers for our project. It wasn't really an approval. They sent us a letter saying that what we were doing did not require a permit, but that was a necessary step we had to take. So now we have our permits for the Hillside Lake project, working with Renewage to get together the bid packages. Unfortunately, as everybody knows, it's getting a little bit late. A little bit of snow today. I don't think we're going to be able to see construction this year. It's possible, but we are looking at an 8-week construction period starting early next year. So I just want to announce that. A couple other things. I did want to thank New York State Senator Sue Serino. We just got a grant for, I believe, $16,000 for police equipment. Senator Serino has always been very helpful to us. She helped us fix, there's a crosswalk at John Jan Route 52. That was a little bit of a problem. That's not really putting it in perspective. It was a serious, dangerous problem. And Sue actually got DOT to come out and redo it. She got us $128,000 for Hillside Lake, and she's working on a grant for Julie Shungle for us. So I'd have to thank Senator Sue Serino. I'd also like to thank Congressman Maloney for his stand. There's activity, I guess you'd call it a motion from the U.S. Coast Guard to allow anchorages along the Hudson River. Now, we're not near the Hudson River. It really doesn't bother us. But the Coast Guard is considering allowing a certain number of what they call anchorages up the Hudson River. They're going to allow them to put barges there. Now, right now, barge traffic goes up and down the river, and we're very happy when the barges go up and down. But they're actually going to allow the barges to stay for quite some time. And the amount of barges they're going to be allowed to anchor, I believe, is pretty significant. So I've spoken with our supervisors in Fishkill, Hyde Park, Poughkeepsie. Everybody's against this. And Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney actually is moving forward with not just to vote on it, but to take some legal action against the Coast Guard doing this, because we really think this is unheard of. The Hudson River is a beautiful river. We all enjoy it, and it would be a shame to see, and also if an oil barge was to leak or something like that, it would be catastrophic. So I'd have to commend the congressman for taking that action. One last thing, I did receive a press release from Assemblyman Kieran Lawler and Councilman Manuel Marinero, and I was I guess I wasn't surprised. Press releases come and go. We've gotten them from the assemblyman before. This one's from the assemblyman and from the councilman. And be honest with you, I have no problem with somebody disagreeing with me. That's why we're here tonight. As a matter of fact, this is a public hearing because we're proposing things and we need the public's input. But I'd have to say that, this is a democracy and it's based upon discussion, debate, and compromise. Councilman Marinero, I believe I've always treated him with respect. Yet the press release recently sent out via email is typical of Mr. Councilman Marinero's and Assemblyman Lawler's reports. I'm just going to leave it at that. I would like to point out a few inaccuracies. I will not address what I would call personal or political attacks, but this just came out the other day, and I think it should be addressed. This is for immediate release. Assemblyman Lawler and Councilman Marinero oppose the East Fishkill Town Board plan to bust tax cap and hand out raises to themselves. And again, I have no problem with this. I mean, we debate this, the board and I have debated this. We take this very seriously, and honest debate is welcome. But I go through the document, and there's a lot of inaccuracies. And I just have to point out that last week, the town board said they would not take a raise. The rest of us I put in for us for a 1.5% raise, just like we put in for the contract employees, 1% raise this year. So there is a raise, it's 1.5%. He goes through some things where they don't like the tax cap and all that. Excuse me. But the first misconception, one area East Fishkill spending that receives statewide attention is the extravagant compensation package for the town's attorney, Tom Wood. Now, Tom wouldn't say anything. Tom is sitting right here. He's been our town attorney for about 11 years now, and I can't tell you the job Tom Wood does. We meet with, we've been meeting with Global Foundries on some very, very, very complex issues, subdividing 300 acres off of a campus that was never considered to be subdivided. It's very, very difficult. But Tom has the expertise. He's been a town attorney for 40 years, and I can't tell you of a smarter municipal attorney. Tom didn't hear that. He'll be asking me for a raise now. But I got to tell you that over the 10-year period, well, this is our 11th year, but for the 10 years on record, the legal costs, we've saved about $60,000 a year. So you can look, we've already saved $600,000 a year by bringing on our present town attorney as opposed to having legal counsel before that. He also mentions that we should hire out, we should sub out for a contractor. One of our big savings in the town of East Fishkill, I'd just like to point out, was we used to sub out everything. We would sub out planning, we would sub out legal, we would sub out engineering. Unfortunately, what happens when you sub out to contractors, it generates a lot of unnecessary billings. This is much better to have them in-house. We have people that we know what they're doing, they're working for us every minute, and to be honest with you, the work is much better. So bringing on an in-house town attorney has not only saved us money, but again, I can't tell you how much it's improved the legal activities in the town. Tom is a very, very good attorney. And with this Global Foundry subdivision, I mean, it was very, very complex. So I'm proud to have him on the team, and I do take exception to Assemblyman Lawler's mention of that. It goes on some other things. Oh, part-time town attorney, and he says he gets benefits. And I'm going to say this. The town attorney does not get benefits. Mark, we pay payroll and pension, which is required by law.
Payroll tax and
Yes.
pension, yes.
But the town attorney receives no benefits from the town of East Fishkill, which is blatantly false. Also, it's odd that the assemblyman would bring this up because as we see, everybody's moving towards shared services. So we not only share our attorney with another town, we share our assessor with the city of Beacon, and we share our town planner with another town. So it just kind of goes along with the shared services, and it works very well. We're very happy with that. And the last thing I want to say is, he says, elected officials owe it to taxpayers to take every step possible to avoid and minimize tax hikes. As you can see, and I think it's probably this board down here, we did a survey of surrounding towns. We have the lowest tax rate of any of these 15 towns on the board in 2016. We consistently have the lowest tax rate of $2.96 this year. So I would like to say that, and one of the other things I would like to point out that, you know, I'm not sure about Assemblyman Lawler or Councilman Marinero. I am very proud of the services that we provide for $2.96 per thousand. I tell you, this town, we have police, we have a great police department, we have a great highway department, recreation. We do a lot of stuff. Sometimes I'm just amazed for what we get done for that amount. And everybody in the town works very hard. So I just wanted to make those comments in response to this press release that was just put out. I don't know, did anybody else want to?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement.
Sure.
I'm going to first apologize if I'm a little bit repetitive on what the supervisor had mentioned, but I think that this is very important that we begin this meeting addressing the joint press release from Assemblyman Lawler and Councilman Marinero concerning the possible exceeding of the tax cap for the purpose of paving. I'm sure there are many in the audience that are here this evening because of that press release. I know it was widely distributed on social media, and I've had conversations with people about it. First, I'd like to thank everyone for being here this evening. It's always great when this room is filled because that means the people of this town are passionate enough about an issue that they will take time off from their busy lives to be here. So thank you. If you're here as a direct result from that joint press release, that's good and it's bad. It's good that you're here and you'll witness and hopefully take part in this discussion. And it's bad in that you were misled by lies, falsehoods, and misrepresentations by Assemblyman Lawler and Councilman Marinero. If the Assemblymen and Councilmen are against exceeding the tax cap, that is perfectly acceptable and their right. None of us begrudge them for their stance. What disappoints me is that the press release was filled with so many errors and red herrings. The headline is even a lie. Assemblyman Lawler and Councilman Marinaro oppose East Fishkill Town Board plan to bust tax cap and hand out raises to themselves. As the supervisor said at the last workshop meeting, Councilman D'Alessandro said, and we all agreed that we would not take the raise. Councilman Marinaro was there. He sits right next to me. How he can allow something that he knows is a lie to be sent out to the people he represents is beyond my comprehension. The personal attacks on our town attorney, Tom Wood, were over the top as well as flat out false. Again, Mr. Wood does not take town benefits. Comptroller Mark Posniak, can you again tell the public if our town attorney takes town benefits?
None of the optional benefits, no.
No, okay. Mr. Lawler states, and I quote, "This cap-busting tax hike can't be blamed on unfunded mandates from the state when the town invites the cost of unfunded mandates with the decision to make the part-time town attorney an employee with full benefits rather than an independent contractor." Again, he does not take full benefits. That is a lie. I want to focus on that statement. Can the town controller please explain to the public and to the assemblyman and Councilman Marinaro the town attorney's salary and what is involved in it, as well as the previous lawyer that the town had? I know you may not have some of the information. I don't want to throw you on the
No,
spot. I have some of the numbers that you provided for me.
As an employee, Mr. Wood is only paid a salary and benefits mandatory by state or federal law.
Right.
So workers' compensation.
So the previous lawyer had an annual cost of $249,892, while our current town attorney, Mr. Wood, has an annual cost of $184,629 a year.
The budget.
That's a saving.
That's the whole budget.
It's the whole budget,
It's not
the
my
entire
salary.
budget. That's a savings of $65,263 a year. I'd like to ask the town attorney, Mr. Wood, do you get benefits from the town of East Fishkill?
No, I do not. The way it's structured is I get a lawyer's rate of $150 an hour for a maximum of, I think it's 13 hours a week. On that, the town pays the pension payment, which brings it up to $178 an hour. That is the same rate I charged in January 1st, 2006, and it's the same rate I charge today. The budget number that you mentioned is obviously, I thanks for the nice comments, but I'm not an expert in every area of the law, and occasionally the town has many complicated matters that we have to bring in outside counsel, et cetera, so that the $100 and some odd $1,000 budget that you mentioned includes the cumulative amount of all attorneys who might be called upon in the course of a year to do work for the town.
Okay. And I'd like to ask you, has Assemblyman Lawler or a member of his staff reached out to you to ask you about this?
I have never met the assemblyman either before he was elected or while he was elected, and I know no one on his staff,
Has
including
the
the
councilman
elector
asked
of this-
about your benefits? and your
Excuse me?
Has the councilman asked you about your benefits or your package?
No, in fact, the councilman has voted for my reappointment time and time again.
Okay. Town controller, has Assemblyman Lawler or a member of his staff reached out to you about this?
No,
What about Councilman Marinaro? Has he reached out to you about Mr. Wood's benefits?
no.
Or lack thereof? Mr. Supervisor, have you heard from anyone in the Lawler camp?
Oh, no, no, not
Nothing?
at all.
Okay. The Assemblyman and Councilman Marinaro like to focus on how much the town attorney's salary is and the addition of town benefits, which we now all know he doesn't receive. A simple phone call was not even made, just an assumption that was thrown out for public consumption. This was a deliberate attempt to create a controversy where none exists, with the hopes of driving a wedge between town government and the people that we serve. In other words, you were all deliberately lied to in order for you to come to their desired conclusion. Another beef I have with this press release is the constant drumbeat from Councilman Marinaro about closing Lime Kiln. My understanding is that Councilman Marinaro went up to Lime Kiln and got 1 week's worth of sign-ins to the facility. His claim that the facility is used by 30 people in a town of 30,000 is a lie, and that it cost the town $96,000 is a lie as well. I have sat with the comptroller and went over the numbers of Lime Kiln as well as other parts of our recreation. The net cost of Lime Kiln is $73,360 people. Oh, I'm sorry, $73,360. Councilman Marinaro would have you believe that 30 people belong to that facility. He was off by 645 people. There are 544 town residents with active memberships and 131 active memberships from Global Foundries. Again, a simple phone call could have given him an answer, but he went with a lie instead in hopes to inflame the public and get them to agree with his desired outcome. I also find it highly ironic that Assemblyman Lawler would encourage the selling, and quote, selling of town-owned properties that are of little value to town residents, such as Councilman Marinaro's desire to sell Lime Kiln. Considering that Assemblyman Lawler must see some value in Lime Kiln because he is actually a member of Lime Kiln, I guess it's okay that he takes advantage of what this town board passed a few years ago, that all town veterans would receive free membership to Lime Kiln. So Assemblyman Lawler, you are welcome. Councilman Marinaro claims to have heard from voter after voter that they don't support this tax increase and that they want the town to cut spending. I happen to agree with that last part, cut spending. It's very important to all of us. That is something we are all trying to do. Ironically enough, at the last voting meeting, the very first resolution was to authorize the refinancing of certain existing town bonds at an annual savings. I believe, Mark, and you can back me up on this, the savings annually was like between 40 and 80,000, I think it was?
That's correct.
40 and 80,000 a year, and around 1.8 million over, was it 20-year period, 30-year period?
Over the term of the,
Over the term, right. Yet, when it came time for the vote, Councilman Marinaro was railing about accountability and voted against it. He voted against saving your taxpayer dollars. Accountability, Councilman, accountability. Finally, Assemblyman Lawler's statement that we would, quote, obscure the facts that they have been running the town for years and the desire to go over the cap is proof that they haven't lived within their means as the families of East Fishkill have to do. That on its face is laughable. The comptroller can back me up on this as well. Our spending has been flat over the years. The town of East Fishkill has been under the tax cap since its inception. We're the lowest tax town out of the 14 surrounding towns. Again, just a little bit of research or a simple phone call can get you the truth. It's very clear what they want to do. They are looking to control the narrative of this public meeting. Don't pay attention to the issue of paving and what it means in terms of dollars or whether or not we should improve our infrastructure. Look at Tom Wood. Look at Lime Kiln. I do not take this job lightly. I never have and I never will. I believe lying, no matter how big or small, is an awful trait. In studying politics, I believe that we as Americans are inherently distrustful of our government. And I believe that that is on all levels of government. That is why we are a great nation. That distrust leads to checks and balances. I'm a firm believer in looking people in the eye and being honest with them. We are a town of roughly 30,000 people. It may sound big, but really, we're a small town. Everyone knows someone in town. As a public official in a small town, you have to be able to look people in the eye and tell the truth. If you don't, it's going to come back and it's going to bite you. All of us should act with integrity. People of integrity do not hide their reactions or opinions. They do not manipulate others through deception, and they do not pretend. Assemblyman Lawler enjoys telling people how he stands up against people of his own party who he believes are wrong. Well, guess what? So do I. Assemblyman Lawler, Councilman Marinaro, you owe Town Attorney Tom Wood an apology, you owe Supervisor Hickman an apology, and most of all, you owe all the good people here in East Fishkill and watching on TV an apology for lying to them. And I want to finish with a brief quote from Albert Einstein. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's it for Supervisor's announcements.
Mr. Supervisor, I would like to respond to some of these accusations, if you may.
If you would.
I'm
I
sorry.
would like to ask, what's that sign there? I didn't see that one. I didn't see
For
the
the
sign
people
next
in
to
the
you.
community.
Oh, I didn't see, could I just look at it quick, though? You can
Sure.
turn it to me, because I didn't see it. Okay, thank you very much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
So we're throwing Granny off the cliff.
It is nice to sit over here next to a council person and be accused of being a liar over and over again. I guess he prepared very well for this meeting tonight. In the past, he was not able to say 2 words at a public meeting without really shaking his voice, but tonight he did very well. Congratulations, Tom.
Excuse me, Councilman.
Thank you, that's fine, that's fine.
Excuse me, sir. I've been sitting over here patiently, listening.
Well, I understand that.
This gentleman
I don't
over here
think that
next
you
to me,
should- Okay.
calling me a liar. Do not stop me when I'm talking right now, please.
Point
I would
taken.
appreciate that.
Point taken, Councilman.
Thank you. So, at the last workshop meeting of October 13th, Supervisor made the announcement of 1.5 pay increases for elected official and appointed people that have been going on for quite a long time. As far as Councilman D'Alessandro, for the first time this year, deciding to turn back the 1.5% increase. I've done that since day one. Controller,
Yes.
can you verify that?
You have not taken a raise since your, yes.
Since day one. While everybody else, while everybody else has been taking it, last year, Mr. Franco decided not to.
No, I don't believe Tom has for several years.
I've never taken the raise.
Well,
And I've gone a few years without a raise in my career
well,
also.
the only time that you declined the raise, the next year you took a 4%. It's all documented.
I did, 4 years, I did not
Well,
take a raise.
anyway,
sir.
I would like to make my statements. I've been, as I said,
Absolutely.
called a liar in public. Now you want to defend yourself. Just listen to what I have to say. And then you're going to have your few minutes to contradict me like you always do. So this year, Councilman D'Alessandro decided that it would be a great thing if we turn back our 1.5%, which I'm in all agreement for. But I remember at that meeting, Councilman Franco ridiculed the fact that how much roads are we going to pay with those $860? Which is kind to me saying like how important it is for me to return money back to the community, which he represents. Town supervisor at that meeting complained about the tax cut, which in my opinion is an incentive to address savings in a budget. The question is, why did the town supervisor address paving roads this year that we have a new highway superintendent? Mr. Hickman has been the town supervisor for the past 10, 12 years. Why this year and not before? Councilman Franco expressed that he was elected to make the tough decisions. He knocked on doors, not only to ask the community about exceeding the tax cap, but rather for political reason. In other words, he was accompanying a gentleman that is running for a local political position. When I posed the question to Councilman Cassidy, who has been a liaison to the Highway Department, and how our tax dollars are spent, Councilman replied that he trusted our controller, Mark, who's been only with us 4 years or so, right, Mark? Prior to that, you would have no knowledge of what happened to Highway or how the money was spent, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. As an elected board member, he, Mr. Cassidy, has a fiduciary obligation to the taxpayers that are here tonight, that elected him to scrutinize how the budgeted funds have been spent on highway. Our controller is not an elected official. Councilman Franco questioning my methods of asking the taxpayers if they would like their taxes raised for townwide paving project was quite offensive toward me, to say the least. And still, today, Councilman Franco has not apologized to this councilman. My understanding of fiduciary responsibility is to focus on cutting spending rather than raising taxes. Town supervisor at that meeting again tiptoed on how the money was spent in the highway budget in the past years. In fact, he failed to give us a clear picture of where the money went, or if it was reallocated somewhere else, where was it reallocated? The fact that he had doubts tells us that he was not paying attention, and there goes his fiduciary responsibility. It is ironic that all town board members at that meeting, who all have intention of exceeding the tax cap, have had a positive response for the constituents that they represent. Councilman D'Alessandro, at that meeting again, October 13th, mentioned kicking the can down the road. I, like Mr. Franco, I am a junior council person on this board. And so if anyone kicked the can down the road, it was Mr. Cassidy and Mr. Hickman, who have been on this board longer than anyone else. Mr. D'Alessandro, why don't you ask these two gentlemen why they pushed the can down the road when the funds were given to highway through the years? The 6.5% tax increase will negatively affect the business community. And you might ask me why. Let's drive around the town of East Fishkill and look at how many empty storefronts are there for rent. This tax increase will be passed on to the person that wants to rent those stores. So, Councilman D'Alessandro, how business-friendly will that message be for the business community? The town supervisor on October 13 meeting asked me how many miles of roads have been paved through the years. Mr. Hickman has been the town supervisor for the past 10 years. Prior to that, it was a building inspector. And prior to that, it was a highway laborer. And he asked me how many miles of roads were paved. Councilman Franco, at the same meeting, attacked me about the gym building on Lime Kill Road. When I pointed out that only 30 or 40 people a day use that facility. And tonight, when the councilman says that there is 500 people, I actually asked to pull out 1 week of sign-in sheets. And I checked the names of the people going to that gym. They're the same people, 30 to 40 people per week. The same people. The same people use that facility, the same 30, 40 people. So I say that if I were to buy the best monthly gym in any local gym, Gold Gym, or anywhere else, of $40 a month, it will cost the taxpayers approximately maybe less than $20,000 a year. And that will save us about $76,000 a year. And I guess to the councilman, $76,000 a year is not important. But he makes a point when, through budgetary means, he saved the taxpayers $76,000. We have no business, however, as a town board, to run a gym, nor to compete with a private business in our community. There are plenty of gyms in our community that people could use. And no, Mr. Franco, financing a broken-down gym is not a recreation necessity. Now, talking about what's going on tonight, the people have attended this meeting. I appreciate everybody showing up. I personally think that you guys are here because of the fact that taxes have to be have been taught by this board, they have entertained the idea of raising your taxes, not because a councilman or a state legislators have put out a press release. I never called anybody a liar. I've always been very polite to anybody in this room. But yet, the community has seen tonight that the attacks go on. And they attack the messenger, and they don't want to talk about the issue. The issues to them are not important. The bottom line is that many board members and many appointed people are taking a 1.5% tax increase. Now, I know that the seniors who receive Social Security, I believe in the last 4 years they didn't get a 6% increase, possibly a 0%. And the fight that I'm fighting for you guys is for those people tonight. Okay? It is your town. It is your taxes. I see some business owners in this community tonight. It's very easy for somebody on this board to raise your taxes because they have the power to do so. But the power comes from you guys. We are over here to do the will that you want us to do. And even if like a letter that went out, we will talk about that later on, by the town's highway superintendent, a letter that was hand-delivered in certain communities of the town, Hillside Lake, Monaco Drive, Creamery Road, the area of Wickeby. That's a federal offense to hand-deliver a mail. I had a postmaster that came to my store and told me, man, this is a federal offense. Moreover, in that letter, not that I care that people contact me, Mr. Bill McCollum gave out my email. That is my personal email. And he did that without asking my permission. And I want the town and this board to know, which I already sent an email to them, that I'm going to seek probably legal counsel against this gentleman. This is the same gentleman that when I was running for council, he went on the marquee private property on Hillside Lake, broke the lock, and took down the message that was given to that community. He had no warrant to do that. The harm twisting of an elected official to get his wishes it's gone way too far. This board has a fiduciary responsibility to oversee the spending of any department that we give money to. And when we fail to do that and represent that to the community, we have failed in our most important job. And yes, call me a liar if you want, but I will be here to defend the people tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make one more point. You wanted an apology for what I did the last voting meeting when I asked you about how you asked residents about the issue, because it was a concern to me on how an issue is framed, how a question is asked. So I'll ask you again, did you fully explain the cost associated with exceeding the cap? In other words, did you tell everybody?
I refuse to answer that moronic question.
Okay,
Moronic question? That's because on your Facebook page, you
okay,
didn't.
that's fine. We've
I
been
hope Mike
through
Miner
this.
can see this.
We've been through this. We've been through this last meeting. Okay,
That is
We're going to
why.
be moving along.
Go ahead,
I-
you can show the community the way I asked them. Show it. Go ahead.
They should see it.
Go ahead, you can
Just
read
tell
it out loud.
residents, would you want to increase your taxes to pave roads, yes or no? There's no, hell no, and yes.
Okay.
Fine, but that's not how you asked the
okay.
question.
Well,
Now, that's a
it's
question
okay.
asked on Facebook. How can somebody ask her a question?
Just excuse me, and we would be moving along. And I would just point out then, I do think that when we've talked about exceeding the tax cap, we try to be objective because we do work for the public. We do want to hear your input. And if you would put it that way, obviously, that's one way to phrase it. You know, I've tried to make the point of why we're doing it. It's specifically for one use and all that. We'll discuss that in a few minutes when we get to the public hearing.
I'm sorry,
the
could you
budget,
go
if
over
you
that
don't mind.
statement one more time, please?
Excuse me?
Could you go over that statement one more
I
time?
said we'll be discussing this when we get to the public hearing part.
Okay, but you said something about the way I phrased that question.
I said, I'm not discussing the way you phrased it. I'm saying we try to be objective and put it out there. Yours was possibly not as objective, and I'm trying to say, Councilman, I've made the point, when we talk about increasing the taxes for certain usage, you just say blatantly, do you want to do a paving?
The
And
usage is
excuse me,
paving,
no,
John.
but, excuse me?
The usage is
No,
explained
no, and we're not
paving.
gonna, I'm not gonna debate this with you. I'm just gonna say that when we talk about at the workshop, what I think a lot of people watch the workshops, it is for paving. It will be used for paving only. It'll be a contract between the town board, the highway superintendent, and the constituents, that this is where the money will go. And it is true for paving. We're just gonna be a one-time increase is proposed, and there are, you know, and there is a tax to it. So yours was a little bit more plain vanilla, I would say, but I think we tried to put a little bit more into assuring the public it will be used for that purpose. That is all I'm trying to say,
you
Councilman.
ask-
And
if you ask-
Councilman, please.
But let me answer that, John, because you're
gonna answer that for me.
you're insinuating something that is not in the
No,
statement.
I'm just saying,
If I put a statement
me,
on
Councilman.
Facebook, if I put a statement on Facebook saying to the community, would you want your taxes raised
Mm-hmm.
for paving purposes, for townwide project?
right.
What's derogatory about that?
There's nothing derogatory about that. I didn't say that was derogatory, so don't
That's
put
what
the
you're
words in my
insinuating
mouth.
tonight.
No, what I said was more plain vanilla. When we talk about it, we go into a bit more detail, is all I'm saying. And that's all I'm saying. I don't go on Facebook. I've never been on at Facebook, so I have no idea. I'm just saying it sounds to me to be a little bit less, we try to put a little more detail into it and we discuss it. That's all I'm saying, Councilman. Now, we will be moving on. I do want to just respond to a
Do
couple.
you mind to
Excuse
respond
me.
to the question that I posed? How many miles of roads in your career do you think that we paved?
Councilman, excuse me, I am not the highway superintendent.
You're the town
No,
supervisor.
no, excuse me, Councilman, I am not the highway superintendent.
town
Excuse me,
supervisor.
Councilman, I will respond, but I'm not the highway superintendent, and you don't know the extent of the duties. I oversee the departments. The highway superintendent is an equally elected official.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. We give him a budget. I stay in touch. I find out how the paving is going certain roads. I know the roads we did with the IBM pipeline. I know we had to go over them with money from IBM. I typically look at the funding portion. I don't look at the miles because that is more of the work of the highway superintendent. But Councilman, I would like to respond, and I don't really feel like being badgered here. And did let you speak, so if you would be kind enough to let me speak.
Sure.
And this is something that I find to be a little bit, I would say insulting, when he accuses me of not fulfilling my fiduciary responsibility. I got to tell you, this is a hard job. This is a big town. There's a lot going on. No, I do not know today what mile of roads that we paved this year or last year. I leave that up to the highway superintendent. But you asked me, why did we kick the can down the road? Which I have to go back a little bit. When I first took office in 2006, we had a highway superintendent been here a long time, and we talked about his needs. He got his paving budget. 2007, I didn't buy him trucks because we had some trucks and we're trying to start conserving money. 2008, we had an economic meltdown. I don't know if you recall that, but all of a sudden, 2008, the real estate bubble burst. Now, when that burst, a lot of things happened. One of the things that happened was people were out of jobs, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, and we're still in the midst of the Great Recession. Obviously, I feel we are climbing out. We don't see it in the revenue that we get, but I do feel we are climbing out a little bit. I think things have stabilized. But Councilman doesn't remember that back in the depths of the Great Recession, quite a few times when I didn't take a raise, was because people out there were hurting. So what we did was we raised our taxes by the same amount that the assessments dropped. The townwide assessment roll in 2007 was about $5.3 trillion. That's the amount of money, that's the value of all the properties of the town of East Fishkill, not trillion, I'm sorry, $1 billion. But that was the total assessed value of all the properties in the town of East Fishkill, 5.3, that was our peak. Now we're about 4.3, so we're climbing back up. Last year, 3 years ago, probably in the midst of the worst, we were around 3 billion. So there's a drop in the assessed value of all the houses. All we did, if you look, our assessed townwide values went down 5.8%. We increased our taxes 5.8%. It was a wash. That way the taxpayers weren't impacted. We tried to be very considerate because we're taxpayers too. And you know we're in the midst of the Great Recession, so we did not pave a lot of roads. Now, I cannot tell you how many miles of roads we paved in those years. That would be something that Highway Superintendent can tell you. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what the paving budget was. But the paving budget has been cut over the years because of the Great Recession. That's the easiest thing to cut is blacktop. It's easy to say to Highway Superintendent, don't put it down as much blacktop. That's the easiest budget cut to make. But, you know, you accuse me of kicking the can down the road. I didn't think in the midst of the Great Recession was really the time to raise taxes for more paving. I find that to be ludicrous, to be honest with you. So we didn't raise taxes, we just kept them flat. And you'll see by the chart down in front of me that our tax rate at $2.96 per thousand is the lowest of all of these towns that have been surveyed. So I think we've done a very good job. I think we've done a very good job of keeping our taxes low. This is what we've been doing. But the roads, I will say, we've been waiting for revenues to increase. But we have the New York State property tax. We have the Dutchess County sales tax cap. Revenues haven't increased very much in mortgage taxes. They go up and down. They're not consistent. So we've seen a loss of revenues. How much longer will we let the roads go? It's not a good thing. And some of them I've talked to the highway superintendent. The roads get worse. They get more expensive to bring back. I had asked the board, my budget that I proposed to the board that I submitted to the town clerk is under the tax cap. But I'm simply asking for more money to pave more roads. It's very transparent. If it passes tonight, then you'll see it in your blacktop. But this is not what I consider kicking the can down the road. You couldn't really raise taxes in those times. It doesn't look like the revenue to the town is going to increase, and I know that some people have concerns about the increase, but we would go from being the lowest tax town to the third from the lowest tax town of all these surveyed. And that's all I want to say. And that's it for supervisor's announcements. And now we're going to move on, because I know there's going to be much more discussion. So with that, Madam Clerk, would you please call?
Can I
No,
please?
Sir,
John,
can we move the meeting on?
Before
Okay, sure.
Before we go on, because this is very important. The community needs to know what's going on over here.
Okay.
You pat on your shoulder for being the lowest tax levy town in Dutchess County, and I'm proud of that. But yet, we are the highest paid officials in all Dutchess County. I brought that to your attention last year, okay? We are way higher paid officials in the Dutchess County area. And you don't want to do anything about that. Now, you know, I have to thank Mr. Bill McCullen for putting these letters out, because I've had a good response of people that they send me emails and call me, excuse me, regarding this. I know that one of the council people, I believe was Mr. D'Alessandro, mentioned Worley Homes. This is from a lady, Lorette Giardino. She lives on Worley Homes. And she was saying that Worley Homes was built in 1958. We moved in 1985. And the last time these roads were paved was 1958. I personally have been in contact for over 15 years with the town hall requesting that our roads be paved. And these have fallen on deaf ears. The residents have been paying their town taxes and have received very few services from our town, and it's past time that the town pave our roads. Okay, so in this statement, this lady is addressing two things. She's been living in the neighborhood for a long time. She's been neglected. She has paid the taxes. And my question on the October 13 meeting was, why weren't the roads paved 16 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago?
Because of the drainage issues that are there.
Well, there's some specific issues, there's some issues
You want me
specific.
to read the statement again?
Excuse me,
the
I will
statement,
just
but
say
there's an explanation for it.
and besides that, there's other issues in Worley Homes that are specific to that community
But
also.
this,
But
and I've had,
Councilman-
and I've had other people sending me the same statement.
Mhm.
A gentleman tonight called me from, I believe, Stormville, a road over there. Told me he's been living over there 32 years. And he can't remember the last time his road was paved. And when he got in touch with the highway superintendent then, he says, I have to take care of bigger projects, places where there are 600 families, 500 families. So this gentleman became a second-class citizen.
What year was that?
He called me tonight.
But I mean, what
He
year
might
was
be in
he
a,
talking about?
he
The last
might be
time
in the
paved
crowd.
it?
He said he was going to try to make this meeting.
Okay.
But these are the comments that I'm saying, that I've been receiving from the
Okay.
community.
So you don't want
So
to
I
pave the
asked the
roads, or
question
do
to
you
the,
want to pave the
you know,
roads?
it's very easy for the town supervisor to say, I am not the highway superintendent. But he is the one that is giving the funds to highway for paving. And when he says that the money during the recession is not there, the money was there. I've mentioned that the $800,000 to $900,000, 1 year it was 1.3 million. And when I asked how that money was spent, he couldn't give me the answer. Now, it's funny that tonight the town supervisor remembers in details some other events, but he cannot tell me how the money was spent or where those funds that these taxpayers gave town on.
Councilman, when are you talking about?
I'm
What time
talking
period?
about 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010.
About last
And
year?
yes, Mr. Supervisor, we're still in a recession today, okay? People have no jobs. People are looking for work. People are losing their homes in our community. So where is the notion that this year we want to raise taxes for paving purposes? Where does that come out from?
Well, Councilman, I would have to say that your statements are quite, I would find insulting. You accuse me of not doing my fiduciary responsibility. This is a big town to run. I mean, we're doing a lot of things. I depend on the highway superintendent, as I depend on all the other, the chief of police to oversee his budget, the highway superintendent. They are the two biggest budgets in the town hall budget. Do I know how, and again, do I know how many miles of road were paved last year? No, I can't tell you that. And I was not elected as highway superintendent. I provide the budget to the highway superintendent. I provide the budget to other town officials, to the town offices. Councilman is being very accusatory of me today, and this is not unusual. I've experienced this in the past, and it's not like he would ever come in the office and talk about it. Of course, it's always on camera. So I will respond, and if you'd like, I will look into those figures. Again, I'm not the highway superintendent. Now, you say all of a sudden, and you find it very insulting that you say all of a sudden I remember something. I find that very insulting, but not uncommon from you, Councilman. Now, let me just talk a little bit about Worley Homes, because possibly, you know, I'm sure you're not aware of Worley Homes. There's always been a problem with Worley Homes, and it's the water. The Worley Homes water was built by a gentleman. Tex Worley built the subdivision back in the late 50s, early 60s. He put in, it's a private water system. Oh, I think it had to be back in probably 2011. We had 50 people here in the audience from Worley Homes, and they said, what are you going to do about our water? What can you do about our water? I met with the engineer, I met with the town attorney. We put together a budget, what we could do about water. Now, the problem was I don't want to really be blacktopping roads and then digging them up to replace water mains. That, in my mind, does not make a whole lot of sense. And the Worley Homes people have been waiting for a long time. We've kept trying to resolve the water issue, and we still have not resolved the water issue because it's a privately owned company. But I do speak with people from Worley Homes, and what I'm proposing to do is not, the problem was it becomes very expensive once you replace the mains of Worley Homes. Now, I talked to the engineer over the last year or two, we've been putting together a plan. We're really not going to replace the mains. At the point when the owners walk away, which will happen someday, because I think half the people in Worley Homes aren't paying their bills, we will run a main over to Worley Homes. We will connect, if Board of Health allows us, because we always have storage issues with the DOH, if the Department of Health allows us, we'll tie Worley Homes into our system. And then what we will do, we'll install flushing hydrants at different parts on the properties to flush out a system that's probably never been flushed out. and there's pressure issues. Now, because it's a certain type of pipe, you can't just put high-pressure water into it because you blow all the mains apart. So we would put in at a reduced pressure, but then what we do is, with the higher elevations, we would have to put in pumps to pump it up to those higher elevations to create, no, Bob? No. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, you're just, yeah. But we'd have to put in pumps to pump it up to a higher elevation. But we've been going back and forth with this. Are we going to take over Worley Homes Water? But the owners are just sitting there. They're collecting the money. So I did not want to pave Worley Homes and then dig it up again. I know in the past we have done significant paving in there. I don't recall if we've done a full-blown paving operation, but I know we've been in there over the past repairing roads. So, you know, the fact that there was a possibility we were going to be taking that over and tearing up the roads seemed rather silly to pave them. I think most of the residents out there are aware of that. Glad to see it is on the proposed paving list for next year, because there are some people that have always felt kind of between a rock and a hard place with the water and with the roads. So that's that. Unfortunately, again, the councilman accuses me of having selective memory, and I can assure you that's not the case, but this is a big town. There's a lot of things that go on, and again, I am not the highway superintendent. Working with the new highway superintendent, though, we did put together a plan going forward, which we thought would be very beneficial to the town. And if it's okay, I would like to move on with the meeting.
Well, I want to thank you, and Lorette Giardino finally got the answers why they haven't paved the roads since 1958.
Well, I think there's been significant work out there. I know Lorette personally. I've known Lorette for probably 15 years, and I believe she knows the water situation out there just as well as anybody else does. So,
Hey, John, could I request that the students who are here now go home, because there's people in the...
absolutely, absolutely. Anybody here for participation in government? Have you had your, if you have had your document signed?
Could all thank Mr. Green as you leave.
Please feel free to leave.
What if they don't want to leave, Bill? They might want to stay.
Bring it up here, guys, if you need it signed.
Pass it over. Pass them right over.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was looking over there, because it's getting hot.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, well, we have 200 miles of town road. Typically, the highway budget is around 5.5 million, something like that. But I got to tell you what, the majority of that goes to personnel, you know, because payroll is about 3 million out of the whole thing. We typically try to pay with about $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
For other
But
things.
it's just not enough to keep up. As the roads get worse, it's not enough to keep up with it. You know how that is out there.
Yeah.
Okay, back to work. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy.
Present.
Councilperson D'Alessandro.
Present.
Councilperson Franco.
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro.
Present.
Supervisor Hickman.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have been provided the minutes of the September 22nd, October 5th, and October 13th minutes of these Fishkill Town Board. Madam Clerk, have you received any modifications or changes?
No, I have not.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 22nd, the October 5th, and October 13th, 2016 minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Under receipt and file, we have nothing under receipt and file tonight. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing to consider the adoption of the 2017 town budget and local law to increase the levy. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is now open. Thank you very much. Before we begin the public hearing, I'd just like to make a quick statement. There haven't been too many quick statements tonight, but I do feel I have to make one quick statement. The budget that I presented to the town clerk is under the tax cap. This budget that I provided includes drainage and paving for the highway department totaling $600,000. As we have pointed out, we are the town with the lowest tax rate of nearby towns surveyed, as you'll see in the placard down below. I have asked the board, as part of the budget, I've asked the board that there, excuse me, I've been asked the board to consider providing an additional $800,000 for paving only. Just because I said to some of the young people just left, you know, our roads, we usually have about $400,000, $500,000, maybe $600,000 for paving. We're falling behind every year. The tough years were during the recession, and we really haven't caught up to a paving budget that should really, with 200 miles of road, should be about somewhere around $1 million, a little over $1 million to keep up. Roads, as they decay, as they come apart, are more expensive to replace. So that's why I'm asking the board. Now, one thing I would say, I've asked the board that. I think it's a reasonable request based on what our taxes are and what the increase would make us the lowest tax, the third from the lowest tax in the surveyed municipalities. I think it's reasonable, but don't anybody think we take this lightly. This is very serious. This is tax dollars. We understand that. We've looked at everything we can cut in the town budget. The town budget is very, very lean. I understand Councilman Marinaro and I have a difference of opinion about Lime Kiln. And we have other recreation facilities, and none of them are in the black. All recreation costs money. That's a service that we provide. But we have that disagreement, but it's a very, very tight budget. I've asked constituents since we've been talking about this for the last 2 months, I've asked constituents. I know the board has reached out. And constituents that I speak to are very understanding that we need to keep up with our roads. And I think there's a couple things is that, you know, they say, well, how can I be sure that the money will be used for the roads? So I spoke to the highway superintendent, and this is the letter that he provided to us. To the East Fishkill Supervisor and Town Board. If the Town Board provides my budget funding over the state-imposed tax cap, I will commit to paving and installing drainage on the following roads in the year 2017. In addition, I will provide a list of roads to have drainage installed and paved in the future years, which will be posted on our website, and their completion dates to be posted, so that our constituents will be informed of the status and rehabilitation of their roads and the use of their paving dollars. I think that is a very big step as far as implementing a transparent paving program. So you'll be able to go on the website. You'll see, okay, my road is this is when it'll be done. And you'd be surprised the cost of some roads. Some roads just need a top coat, some need more work, and the expenses of some of these roads are pretty significant. You look at Lake Walton Road, which 2 years ago we did a 2-year project, and I believe the cost was over $500,000. But that was a major feeder road. That's a road that's well used, and it needed a lot of work. It's in very good shape, but it costs money to maintain these roads. So that's why I'm asking the board to consider an increase over and above the tax cap. Now, again, I say this will be very transparent, because if it's approved, you're going to see the roads that I listed, that I read, being paved. Couple things, the cost of this proposal is approximately $62 per year for a house assessed at $300,000. For seniors, the town has an income exemption, which could lower that amount by up to 50%, because with the seniors in the program, based on their income, instead of paying the full value, the value is actually at a sliding scale. Based on their income, it could be lowered to up to 50%. So if you had a house at $300,000 and you're a senior in the program, your assessed value would only be calculated at $150,000. And so then it wouldn't be $62 a year, it would be $31 a year. And we recognize that, because we don't want to put our seniors out. You know, seniors are an important part of this community. They pay taxes, they've been here forever. But we've had this program for many, many years, and this would very much help on the tax increase as far as seniors go. Also, there's no penalty this year. New York State did not, as they have in the past, they would penalize you, couldn't get your rebate check if you didn't meet the tax cap. We met every tax cap that there has been, and everybody's gotten a rebate, I think. I'm not sure if the state's still got the rebates out or if they're still waiting on them. I can't figure that out. And then the only thing is that this is an exceedance, one time. I'm just asking for this money for paving, this budget. It will be in the budget. Once it's in the budget, it will be dedicated to paving, and next year, we will be within the cap. This is just a one-year thing, and this is what I'm requested from the board. So I just want to make those points, and this is the letter of commitment from our highway superintendent to pave those roads. And the roads that are listed are East Oak Cross Road, Miller Hill above the Taconic State Parkway, all of Worley Homes, Creamery Road, Lime Kiln Extension, Broadway, Van Brook Drive, Back Court, Barrett Road, Blueberry Hill Road, Cedar Lane, Forest View Drive, and Orbit Lane. And the total for that will be just a little bit over $1.4 million. So that is what I've asked the board to consider tonight. And again, we don't take this lightly. This is your tax money. We work for the taxpayers, and we want to hear from you, and we are glad you're here. I've spoken to a lot of people, as we all have. That being said, is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against the proposed budget? Please come up.
Before we go there, 1 second, I would like to address the issue of transparency. In the last week and a half, I've been trying to see if I could get the records from Highway Department to see how much or how many roads have been paid. I officially requested that information to the Highway Superintendent, and till tonight, I have not got an answer to that. This is talking about what the town supervisor is talking about, transparency. There has got to be a connection, there has got to be a way that the people in the town of East Fishkill are made aware of how their tax dollars have been spent. That's a fair question. I don't think that I'm asking for somebody to go to Mars. I've asked to volunteer my time to go there and look through the records myself, and I've not been allowed to do that. So, I mean, it's like we're asking for more funds, we're asking for more tax dollars, and yet the people can't find out how many miles of roads were paved, if they were paved. How was the money spent?
Okay, to that, I would just like to respond that I've spoken to Highway Superintendent. I believe your request had to do with, what was your request?
My request was to look at the files that I'm sure they have records on file of which roads have been paid at what year and how much or how many miles of that road have been paved. I'm sure they have the records of those.
And what was the time period that was in question?
Well, I wanted to go there myself. I mean, I've
but
asked.
what was the time
This
period
was
that was in
about 10
question?
days ago.
No, the files that you were looking for. What was the time period in question you were asking for the number of roads? Since 1860? what?
1864, when the country was first built. I mean, I've been asking for the last 10 years, John.
No,
I
when
mean,
you
come
asked
on.
me, you said, well, that's why I'm asking you, Councilman, don't be like that.
Well,
I
don't be
asked
like
you-
that.
I asked you the
Here we
time-
go with the insinuations again. Every
No,
time I
Council-
ask for something,
Councilman, I just asked.
again, I have to be ridiculed in public because I'm asking a fair question.
Councilman, I only asked you to clarify what records, what were the date of the records you were looking for?
The
And you
last
did
10
not seem
years?
to want to say.
The last 10 years?
Last 10 years, okay, that's all I wanted to know, from 2005 on, correct?
Yeah.
And the email response that I saw that went to you said you requested that the day before the secretary was leaving, and when she came back, she'd be more than happy to provide you with that information.
And since the secretary is coming back at the end of the month, and our discussions are happening now, I had volunteered my time to go there on my own, or if anybody else wanted to be with me, and look at those records myself, and shut down some notes. That's all. And I was not allowed to do that.
I can't speak for
That
the
is
highway
part of
superintendent.
being transparent.
The highway superintendent, would you like to respond to that? Absolutely. Okay, would you like to just step up and just respond to that?
Getting bumped, Bobby, sorry.
Bobby, you better sit
All right.
We'll get there, Bob.
Get on the on-deck circle. Get on the on-deck circle.
My name is Bill McClellan. I am the highway superintendent. I've been the highway superintendent for 10 months now. Councilman Marinero came the day before Jean, who's been there for 28 years, was going on holiday. She's out till the first of the month. So he came the day prior to and asked if he could have the records from 2005 to 2015, not during my tenure at all. I indicated that Jean was going to be on holiday and that when she comes back, she'll take care of it. Now, I also, at the same time, put an email out to all the town board members, including the council person, stating those facts, so everybody was understanding it. The other thing I did is I asked Mr. Miller, the previous highway superintendent, about the records. Unfortunately, Mr. Miller was admitted to the hospital, and he is out of service. So I apologize that you came last week, 1 week prior to this meeting, when, you've been a board member for how many years? You could have come at any time, and I've been more than happy to try to retrieve those records for the last 10 years, which personally, I do not know where they are. I indicated to you in the email and in person that the computer system at the highway department is antiquated. I cannot push a button and receive any of that information because none of it's been computerized. The computer came into the highway department when I came into the highway department. If you would like to know information about the roads that were paved this year under me, I'll be more than happy to supply everybody in this town, anybody on that board, with what I've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. McCollum, the only reason that I asked for those records 10 days ago is because the budget was given to us maybe 3 weeks ago, and the paving projects with going over the tax, exceeding the tax cap, came up now, and coincidence or not, the secretary is gone. It seems to me that the secretary knows more about what's going on in that department than the heads of the department. And that's not talking about you. It's probably talking about the people before you.
Well, I have to agree with you. I'm very, very fortunate that she's there. And prior to me looking at running for this office, my first person I talked to about it was Jean Higgs, who's been there for 28 years and a fantastic town employee. So I asked Jean, are you going to be here if I run for this office? And she said, if you're here, I will be here. And that's the only reason that I ran for this office, because I would have the support from that woman running this thing. So you're right, she is a fantastic employee, and she knows everything about the highway department.
So, Mr. Supervisor, can we postpone? Since Jean is not around to give us some of the answers, can we postpone some of these meetings until she comes back?
I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish. I know you said last week you said you were doing an investigation. I'm not sure that the investigation, what's happened in the past, really has the bearing going forward with the roads that we're proposing to pave, that the new highway superintendent has proposed, but we will consider that. Yes, sir.
Good evening. First, I'm just wondering if this vote ought to be tabled for a while. Lime kill facility has been an issue that I've had concerns about. If there's a way of saving some money, I think that we ought to do that before we go ahead and, and do anything else, spend any other money, if there's a way of saving something. And what I'm about to say is, there's no reflection on the past or present highway superintendent, but I think it's concerns that I haven't heard brought up. Regarding paving, and, it's not just about paving, so I think that details need to be addressed and spoken about. The grade on my property, the road in front of my house, has been raised over 50 years, has been raised almost 18 inches, okay? Which has created an I'm gonna pass on the word, and a hardship. it's costed me money to raise the grade, the slope of the driveway's getting steeper, on and on. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So, in addressing just blacktopping, milling of the roads need to be addressed, workmanship, and again, not talking about the present or the past, but if we're not gonna do workmanship 100%, whether it be maintenance or the blacktop itself, we're not gonna accomplish anything. Filling holes and having cars run over them to pack it down is not a way to it's a waste of everybody's money.
Sure is.
There is, but, John, these are details that I think that need to be spoken about before we do anything. I called up the state, there are no codes as far as repairing potholes or anything else. So to go ahead and just make it look like something's getting done to me, is a waste. There needs to be a code, a standard, and all of these details need to be spelled out before I'm looking to spend any more money anyway. And again, I think that it's not just blacktopping, but it's milling and any other expense that might come along with it, and any other hardship that it might create on anybody if milling is not done. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, okay. I'd like to say, few years back on Clover Branch Road, which I believe is a county road,
Clover Branch is a county road, yes.
they had a machine that went along, dug up the blacktop, and went into this huge furnace. They reheated it, dropped it back down, and they rolled it out again, the same thing. And they did the whole road in like one day.
Yeah. Yeah, we've looked at that. It's an expensive process, though.
Well,
Yeah. I think, Scott, can you speak to that? I know
Well,
you,
It also depends on the subsurface, too. When you do a treatment like that, you're basically just refreshing the top. So if you have a good, lower section, you're not having
Oh, yeah, you
settlement,
need a good-
alligating.
good base, yeah.
It brings more life to the top and it prolongs the life. But a lot of our roads are failing. They're alligated, they're rutted and things like that, and that just would not work.
okay, thank you. Thanks, Marty. We've looked into that, though. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bob Wilbard. Most of you know me, and I'm going to cause a little trouble.
We know you, Bob.
Yeah, you do. That's good. First of all, I got this letter it wasn't shoved in my post box, so it wasn't a violation. It was put in my paper box. So I don't think that's a violation of federal law. I don't know what they did with the rest of them. And I found another one on the side of the road, so obviously everybody on my road got one. The thing that bothered me about it is on page 3 where they give Mr. Marino. I always mispronounce your name. I apologize.
Marinado.
Mr. Marino.
That's good enough.
Close. Do it again? I just stopped saying it. It's, mental defectiveness when we get old. When he gave his email and his phone number,
Yeah.
the highway superintendent in his memo, and no one else's. I believe with the current paradigm, that's called harassment and bullying. Because it's not age-specific, so I think an apology is owed. That should not have been done. The other thing is the $62 keeps coming up. He said 63 in your October 13th
62,
meeting.
63, yeah, I think
62.
61
I
and
got a copy
change.
of the Poughkeepsie Journal that came the same day.
Yeah.
And it talks about the debt ceiling. And if you don't adhere to it, then we don't get our tax freeze payments and our tax rebate payments.
Right.
That comes in the average for the people of East Fishkill, according to them, it's about $280.
Right.
So it's 60 plus, 62 plus 280.
No, that's not going to, I don't think, Tom, that wasn't reenacted.
At the newspaper article is based on the school district levies. You have to be
No,
eligible
that's not
for
what
the
it says.
STAR. Well,
Give it to you.
2016, let me finish, Bob. Okay. 2016, this year, if you stayed within the levy, you get a check. We're all expecting checks. Okay? That plan, if you look on the state website and read the article, that is hooked in with the school tax levy. So there is no funding in place for municipal or county rebates in 2017.
Then we should write a letter to the paper because they specifically talk about local towns.
I know.
You don't
I
get the
agree
rebate.
with you. It's,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all I was going to say about that. Now, Mr. Hickman, you're much maligned, and I at least pronounced your name correctly, I hope.
Thank you.
I don't see why you should have to be responsible for overseeing in depth the highway superintendent's proposals. I just think that's an unreasonable expectation.
Thank you.
I think money probably was diverted from the highway department years ago. What I do object to is talking about the lowest tax rate, because it's per thousand of assessed evaluation.
Right.
A lot of towns, if they don't do full evaluation, and a lot of poor towns,
Yeah.
they have to raise the tax rate per thousand, and it will come in higher than ours.
Right,
So
but we-
referring to that, I think, is somewhat misleading to the
No,
general
no,
public.
and I would correct you on that one. 2008, we went through the very painful revaluation, and most of the towns around us have done the same thing. I think only there's maybe Dover hasn't, something like that. And we kept, our assessor has to keep every year at 100% valuation. That means we have to keep going back to our records, making sure every area of town is correctly valued.
But we're a very rich town compared to some towns like Beacon.
In some parts, yeah.
Yes, most
Overall,
parts.
all overall,
So
yes.
I think using that as a yardstick is kind of misleading. I'm not saying it's just misleading. I also remember when John Koch ran against you for supervisor.
Just a second, I'm just going back. So why would that be misleading?
Well,
Because it's
could you talk about the
$3.09
tax
per
rate?
thousand, because there's higher valuations in the town of
Correct.
East Fishkill. Okay.
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure.
That's why I think it's just slightly misleading, because
Okay.
we're a
That's good.
fairly rich town.
Good point, good point.
Okay. The other thing, when you debated John Koch, I know it was a debate or discussion with Poughkeepsie Journal.
Yeah.
Remember, he said, because you guys were taking turns answering questions, and he answered first when the tax cap came up, and he said he totally supported the tax cap, and when it was your turn right after him, you said, I'm paraphrasing, because I may not have it exactly right, you feel strongly that the tax cap should be adhered to.
Yes.
Words correct something
I
around
do.
that.
I mean.
And I
look-
think you're trying to do that now. I think that's why.
That's why we're going to go back to it. This is why.
That's why
it says-
Mr. Moran,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it because I'll mispronounce it
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Is correct, and the whole reason for driving this above the tax cap is
Yeah.
for the highway
It's
paving.
for the paving, yes.
That's the only issue that's driving it above the tax cap.
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing I'd like to mention, the highway superintendent, I looked in the budget, 'cause it's 52 pages. That's a lot to try and remember. And I went through the salaries. And he's in line for raise this year. I don't know if it's 1.5%. It's 90,000 and change
1.5%, yeah.
to 92 and change.
Yeah.
8 months on the job?
You typically, we pay the position, and we just,
I
it's the
know,
way it's
I've
always
just,
been done.
it just occurred to me, 8 months on the job, I didn't get a raise at IBM for the first 2 years. And then we had the tax freeze where things got really bad in the 80s, and we didn't get to see squat for 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I just thought I'd bring that up.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Franco, using your yardstick, Einstein's quote, I think you should leave the room right now. Your comment about Mr. Wood was, he receives no benefits.
From the town of
When
East
Mr. Wood, from the town, yes, and when Mr. Wood quoted his salary at $150 an hour and $178 with state mandated benefits, those are benefits. They're not no.
They're not
So
full-
your yardstick, even a
full
small
benefits.
amount,
It was full benefits was in there.
you did not
Full
say that, you said no benefits.
Mandated, as the comptroller has said.
You said no benefits. And the controller,
None from
yes,
the-
you did.
Not full benefits.
So by your yardstick, as small as it might be, by your yardstick, you lied. Now, the second question is, you have constantly said, and you said on the October 13th meeting, that 500 and some odd people attend the Lime Kiln thing. He's got the attendance sheets that shows 30. How did you get that number?
I went over to Lime Kiln and I talked to the people that work there, and I have the active roster right here, active membership.
That's not the people that attend.
Those are the people, hold on.
You told it, you told it on truth
Those are the
again.
people-
You said the
Bob,
people that
sir.
attend to 500 a week, not the people
no,
on
I
the
said
roster.
don't believe you
Active
did. I think you
membership,
said
sir.
that.
Two times you violated your own ruler.
No, sir, listen. Those are the people that came during that week that signed in. The active memberships that are currently going on there, I have 544 residents, active members in East Fishkill,
That's
and
not what you said. You said
131.
people who attend the facility.
I said active memberships.
Can we go back and review the record? Because that's what I heard.
I don't think we can do, what do they call that?
Instant replay.
Instant
That's
replay.
what I heard.
Right, but I just want to.
And I heard it at the October 13th meeting, too. Well, it's just by the yardstick, if Einstein, as small a lie as it may be, don't trust the person. And Mr. Franco, I believe by his own language, has told us 2 untruths.
Please absolutely check my facts. And I want to mention something, too, about recreation and about Lime Kiln. East Fishkill, we do have a tremendous recreation program here. The purpose of rec is recreational services for the entire East Fishkill community. We have numerous sports leagues that use our fields. We have great parks. We have a beach area at Red Wing. We have skating rinks, football fields, baseball fields, soccer fields. You get the picture. We have Leetown and Brettview as well, and of course, Hopewell Rec. We don't provide a single particular service in recreation. There is no such thing or service that encompasses all of the town's residents' recreational
I
desires.
don't remember asking about any of those things.
No, just
Can
let
I-
him
I'm
make his
just trying to make my
comment.
point, sir. This is particularly about Limekiln, and I understand your concern, and they're valid issues. For our youngsters, we offer our fields with different leagues that they play on. They can enjoy different parks as well as take part in our summer camp and some of our events, such, well, I'll get into that one later. And I mentioned teens, and we also have for our growing older population, okay? Like I consider myself, who are looking to stay fit, unlike Councilman Cassidy. We have adult leagues, and we have, of course, Limekiln. As for our seniors, we offer them our senior center program, and they too can enjoy all the parks, Limekiln, and the events that we hold for them. We offer a multitude of services for the people of East Fishkill, all of which cost money and are part of the rec budget. Recreation does not exist to make a profit. Again, it's a service that we provide the community. But of course, there's a cost associated with the maintenance of the parks, buildings, and programs that we offer our residents. Just an example of this, I got these numbers from the town controller, and you can check. The total net cost of operating Limekiln rec facility is $76,360. There are those who argue that this is too much money to be spent on something that so few people use. Well, as I discussed, and I have the proof right here, there are a total of 675 people who are active members to Limekiln. Going over the monthly attendance, it obviously fluctuates from month to month. January always being the busiest because that's when we all have our New Year's resolutions and we want to go stay fit. But if you add up the amount of people attending the facility over the last 13 months, you get about 40 people a day. Now, the seniors, conversely, do not attend our senior center program every day. We have numerous events for them, as well as trips and services. They meet, I believe, 3 times a week, sometimes more, and we have around 60 or 80 seniors that participate during these days. The cost for running our senior program for the past 2 years, which is through recreation, and this does not include the cost of the building, which is the community center, is $91,373. So if you look at an apples-to-apples comparison of programs we offer to the different demographics of our town, you can see that in terms of daily expenditures, for the amount of people who walk through the respective programs, it costs more to run the senior center than it does for us to run Limekiln. I'm not suggesting that we eliminate the senior program. I would look for ways to expand it. I'm suggesting that if you say Limekiln is not worth keeping open because so people go through there on a daily basis, then you're ignoring the few seniors that are in our senior program that cost more than Limekiln to run. Again, this is a service that we provide the community. I don't feel it's right to suggest that one segment of our population deserves a service taken away from them when another segment of our population with similar numbers does not.
I can see why you're in politics. I asked a simple question and got a super answer.
Thank you.
I have one other comment. Back when the library was part of the town budget,
Right.
I remember you put a budget through, and I came to see you in your office about
Yeah.
the percentage that amount was, because the library, the next year got subtracted out.
Yes.
But when you compared the new budget against the old budget, you left it in. So the 100,000 was actually double counted. And I'm wondering,
I'm sorry, but
okay,
we
for
used to-
example, if you have a
No, no.
budget one year and you have $100,000 in there for the library,
well, we used to give them $600,000, I believe.
I was 100,000 at the time was taken out of the town budget,
Yeah.
and it was put into the library budget being separate. And when you did the budget in the next year, you counted the budget, the new budget against the old budget, which was actually $100,000 less because that wasn't given to the library anymore. It was separate.
If you want to sit down and take a look at those budgets, as I
We did, we went through it, and you said, oh, yeah, it depends on how
I
you
mean,
did
that
the
was a while
calculation.
back, but as I recall, we used to, when I took office, we used to give the library, I think, $600,000 a year, so I don't know what 100, but just let me finish.
Okay,
And then,
the
you know,
other
they
thing-
kept growing, and we said, we can't give you any money, so
I
that's
know,
when we
I'm
had
just
them
saying,
go
when
off
you
and on.
did the numbers comparison, you used the money with the library in it as the comparison to the last year.
What year was that?
It's a long time ago.
It has to be
2004 or so?
Was it
I
that
think.
long?
Yeah, it's
No,
a
it
long
couldn't
time
have
ago.
been that long.
The reason I bring that up is,
2006.
May have been.
Yeah, we could take a look at that.
Okay, but no, the reason I bring it up is because
Right.
next year, if we
Right.
put the paving additional budget in.
Right.
When you draw up next year's budget.
Yeah.
Will you compare it to the budget with the paving in or with the paving out?
It's still in, so that would be recurrence.
No,
But the-
yeah, but you see, if you
Yeah.
put 1.2 million only in this year.
Yeah.
And then next year, when you draw a budget up, you can say, we dropped the taxes, so we're spending $600,000 less.
Yeah.
There's still $600,000 in
Well,
there
yeah,
from the
but let me
paving.
just
that shouldn't
explain, and it's not 1.2 million, that's the paving budget.
Well, that's what's
No,
in
no,
the
no, but
memo.
what I'm saying is that we already have, from our regular budget, that's kept under.
600,000 and another 800,000. is what
Right,
you're
exactly, it's
posting.
the 800.
1.4 million
It's the eight-
altogether.
Yeah, total, that would be
Yeah,
the total budget.
That's what's in the letter.
Yeah, no, that's the total we're looking for. There's already
Correct.
600,000
I'm just wondering when
already
you
in there.
compute the budget
Oh,
for next year,
absolutely.
if you'll keep it in or
It's-
out.
It's
when
in
you-
there, and it would stay in there, wouldn't be added again, it would be in there from this
Okay,
year's
so the budget would be the same with another 800,000 next year also for the roads?
No, no, it's once.
Still be the same 1.4, so the paving budget would stay the same with the increase?
Yes.
So it would stay at 1.4 and not go back down again? It's not
Well,
a
it
one-year
could.
thing?
And this is another thing, too. This is a year-by-year budget. We do our
I
budget
know,
every year.
but you said this was for this year only.
Yeah, we go in this year, and then
And it will
next
be,
year.
and your intention is to have it next year and the year
Well,
after
it's
that?
always-
I
like
think
any tax
people
we-
should be aware of that.
Oh, no, well, that's a good point, but every tax, we do a tax, like we do a tax
Yeah.
for the police department. Yes, it's in there.
But
And
it'd
then-
be
and
it would be
just
like
let me
giving the
finish.
police
But
department
just let me-
another 800
No, no,
grand
just-
this
no,
year
no.
and saying, I'm going to do it
No,
again
just
next
let me
year.
finish, Bob.
Yeah.
So the highway, so the police department's in there, and so next year, there's an increase of 2%, so it's that budget plus 2%. Yes, it's in there, but it's embedded in the budget.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be, because if someday we ever finish all the roads, or if the program isn't
chance.
working out, we can remove it. This is a year-by-year thing.
If you don't get the water done before you pave Worley Homes, that's money thrown down the drain, too, and that's
Well,
on the
as I
list,
said, we're not
so.
going to dig up the mains, and that's
No,
the thing.
if
You
you-
got to leave the mains. That would,
Well, however the engineer decides to do it, you know, that's
Yeah.
fine with me. I have no question
No,
about
but we
that at
can't
all.
do that.
But I'm just saying it'd be insane to pave it before you fix the water.
exactly, exactly.
I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you very
thank you,
much for
Bob.
your attention. And gentlemen,
Bob,
thank you.
Bob,
Always a pleasure, Bob.
Bob, just to add to your comments, I have spoken to the highway superintendent. This is going to be a 15-year program, okay? So if we intend to finance 1.4 million, that will be probably one of the biggest projects in the town of East Fishkill, public work, in the figure of $20 to $25 million. Now, when the town supervisor says, we'll see how it goes, I mean, they're pushing for this deal to happen this year. How are they going to stop it?
I mean, if I
They
may.
say that they have 280 miles of roads. How they plan on stopping it? So, you know, to not be transparent and say, okay, this is something that will be going on for 25 years, for 15 years, and this is what the cost is going to be. You know, it's a typical politician trying to push a project, presenting only the good side, and yet hiding the rest of the story behind to be followed. In other words, somebody else's problem later on. The other comment that I have is, Councilman Franco, I got the same numbers over here. Says, I believe, month by month, residents, and then GF. What does GF stand for?
Global Foundries.
Global Foundries. So, September 216, residents 702, Global Foundries 354. August 216, residents 826, Global Foundering 412. July 16, 2016, residents 768, Global Founders 359. June 216, residents 860, Global Foundry 365. May, residents 830. The bottom line is that these are the numbers. It's about 1,000 people a month. When in October 13, I said to Mr. Franco, it's about 30, 40 people a day. He says, no, it's not. So I don't know, you tell me, you bring these numbers to us, and I'm breaking it down per week. I didn't just pull this. I said to whoever, just give me 1 week, whatever. They happened to give me a week. I highlighted the names, and day after day, it's the same people. My saying is that if I were, this is the same thing as Obamacare. 2 million people don't have healthcare, so everybody's got to be penalized, so we got to push Obamacare on everybody's throat. If I have to buy out of the taxpayers of East Fishkill a plan for the people that want to use this facility, okay, it will cost us less than $20,000 per year. There's still, last time I checked with controller, the cost was 96. Now we brought it down to 76. I'll take 76. We'll still be saving about $56,000 a year. To me, 56,000, maybe we could buy 3 police cars, maybe 4, I don't know. Maybe we could pave a stretch of a road. You know, there is a lot of things we could do.
Are we gonna close the seniors?
The point that this board does not want to address cuts, to me, is an issue. And
Okay.
I will fight to reduce the tax burden on the community till the day I sit on this chair.
And why did you vote no last?
Okay.
And explain your vote, why you voted against saving the town taxpayers 1.8 million.
I'm sorry, say it again?
No, that was the bond vote.
Explain.
Anyway,
First of all, let's go to that bond. Let's go to that bond.
excuse me.
1 second, Joe. You seem
Hey.
to interrupt me every time that I have to say something.
No.
You seem to interrupt me. I'm sorry, John. Let's finish this discussion.
Okay.
I asked the question when we were reapproving those bonds. The question came up to the controllers, why did we bond for paving? And probably Peter Cassidy voted on that bond the first time. Maybe you will know why, because I don't know if the town supervisor was at the time here. My question is, why did we bond for paving? Because that specific bond was for paving. Okay, and in the same year, that department had received, I believe, maybe about $800,000. So the board was saying, maybe it's this, and maybe it's that, and maybe it's the other thing, and maybe it rained, and maybe it was the storm. So we bond, a bond is something that we borrow today, and we're gonna pay 30 years from now. And right now, mark me as, if I'm wrong, we're still paying for that bond, right? In a highway, it's
Yes, but it's not a 30-year bond. I think 15 years.
15 years. So we're paying for that. We're gonna be paying for the next 15 years.
No, 15 years from when it was borrowed.
Okay. And when we reissue the bond, how many more years is gonna be?
It keeps the same end
Same term.
term.
The term remained the same.
Everything stayed the
It's
same.
just the-
We were
the
saving money.
interest rate lowered.
But-
That was all.
We are gonna be paying for that bond, correct?
Well, we were going to be paying for it at a lower rate.
Can I have an answer from the controller, please?
Absolutely, Councilman, I'd like to speak to.
Respectfully,
Absolutely.
Mr. Hickman.
It's a amalgamation of various bonds. All the individual bonds that are being refinanced keep their original terms. So a bond with a 15-year term borrowed in 2005, that would mature in 2020, it will still mature in 2020, even though the total bond is going to last 23 years. But the integrity of the individual borrowings remains the same.
Right. And do we have an answer why we borrowed 1.3 million for paving at the time?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Does anybody on the board know?
We'd have to go back to the year that we borrowed it. But I do remember one year we didn't have any money and we didn't want to increase taxes. And in order to keep the numbers low and fixed for a number of years, we did bond to borrow to put money in blacktop. It may have been the year of one of the big storms, snow buds. It could have been any one of them. I don't know. We'd have to go back and look at that year.
If I may respond, because I often try to respond. I know the councilman says we didn't know what it was for. It was for rain, maybe it was a cloudy day. I do resent those insinuations. I would say that these bonds, the series bonds, I believe, Mark, were they 2005, 2007, or 2007, 2009?
2005 and 7, I believe.
Okay, these bonds were taken out in those years for different purposes. I do believe it, if I recall right, and I can't really speak for them, but they were highway bonds. It was to purchase 10-wheelers. I believe they probably purchased 5 10-wheeler trucks at that time, and I believe that they used some for blacktop. So as the councilman says, none of us know, we think it was for rain. I think we have a decent idea what it was for. The bonds, the opportunity came up, we were contacted by bond counsel. that there's a market for these bonds. You can actually sell these bonds and lower the interest rate. There's no change in the term, there's no change in the amount. It was just a financing, and we would save $1.8 million over 20 years. Would be probably $10,000 this year, I think $80,000 next year, and so the likely amount for the next 18, 19 years. And those were series bonds. And as you say, Mark, when we do bonds, a lot of times we lump a lot of the bonds together.
They can
Correct.
be lumped together, but their purpose and their terms
Are-
stay independent.
State, yes. Okay. And that's what I recall. Okay, and that's on the bond issue. Now, I'd like to respond a little bit, if I may, because the councilman says that if we approve this tax increase tonight, we're automatically approving a $15 million paving project. And I tried to explain that to him, and I even sent him the email. The town board reviews budgets every year. We go over the budget. If the paving project isn't working, we won't refund it. I have a lot of faith that we're going to be able to do a lot of paving. The highway superintendent has demonstrated very, very good capabilities at paving, getting the job done, getting it done under budget. I have a lot of faith in him. If something was to change, say there's another highway superintendent, or as I said, there's something wrong with the program, we won't fund it again. I'm asking for 1 year, but the town board can always reduce the budget or take that money, put it somewhere else. You know, this is not automatically, this vote does not automatically bind us. Although the highway superintendent may have laid out a 15-year program, we only do our budgeting, we only do our financing 1 year at a time, so we can change it at any time. So I'd just like to make that clear. This is not a commitment to a $15 million project, but it is a start at reclaiming our roads. That's Bob.
So that addresses one of my concerns that I forgot about when I got bumped twice before there. When I asked at the last meeting how much it would cost, Nick had said that it would be $62, and it would be one time. That's the impression that I was under. And I think Tom also had said the same thing. But only now I'm hearing from this discussion that you don't have to go forward with it again. So I need some clarity, because I thought it was going to be $62 on the $300,000 for 1 year, and that's not the case. Am I
It
correct?
stays in the budget until we decide.
But it would
that-
be $62 year after year after year, not 1 year like I was told.
Right, it stays in the budget, yes.
Okay, so we got clarity on that. And again, the milling would be an expense. I'm going to stay away from the word again right now. The milling would be a big expense if in fact it's necessary, right?
On your driveway there?
No.
Or just milling in
for
general?
for anybody whose elevation has gotten raised, and it's gonna be not a detriment to them, but that's gonna pose a problem to them if they get another 4 inches of blacktop. So that's something that's gonna have to be addressed, and that's gonna change the amount that's gonna be needed. I think that we need not to lose sight of that. And that was it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to address Councilman Franco on, as far as the senior center. When my wife died, about 5, 6 years ago, I sat around for a couple of months, and I said, I have to do something. So I went to the senior center, and it saved my life. There are a lot of more people down there like me.
I know, I visited
And those people
you.
that run that place get paid, what, $13,000 a year? And they do a hell of a job.
Yes, they do. I visited you there last week. It's a great place, and make no mistake, I would never even consider closing it down.
Okay.
Like I said, if anything, I'd like to do more there. You guys are great.
All right, I just kind of got a different reaction from you.
Hi, guys. Bill Green, Recreation Director. Just a couple of things that came up. I'm not going to talk about paving. The senior center. You have to remember that this town board luckily put money in, and we expanded it. And the senior center, where I go every day, Marty knows, It's a great, great facility. It's greatly run. We mentioned Lime Kiln. Now, no one mentioned that near Lime Kiln, we now have Julie's Jungle, which is another great project.
Yeah.
The problem with Lime Kiln is the money we put into the community center, we didn't put the money into Lime Kiln. And if we want to get more people, more usage, we have to come up with some money for that facility. Now, recreation, I'm the rec director, I've been here for a while. We make every attempt. We're not going to be in the black, but we try to keep our fees, and I looked at the budget, Red Wing, camp, we come very close to balancing out. So we try not to increase the fees. The camp fee, the Red Wing fee, our tennis, our golf, we try to make them come out the same. It's tough times financially for many people, but for senior citizens and for all ages, our recreation program, whether it's a trip, a concert, or I want to give a little advertisement while I'm here, this Sunday we have our Halloween party at Van Wyck Junior High School. I was able to recruit 6 of these John Jay kids to volunteer there. It's from 3 to 5. We have in our budget a line item called Celebration. Celebration is for every facet of this town. It's for little kids, it's for senior citizens, it's for adults that go on our trips. And yes, we need roads, but somewhere down the line, never even consider cutting back some of the programs we have, because one of the best things we have going here is that people like Marty or that 5-year-old kid who takes a golf lesson is getting a benefit from this town. And I'd like to thank the people who keep putting that money in the budget, because it's a plus. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And Bill, I would like that. I agree with you. I think that at some point when we can find the money, I would like to see Lime Kiln be rejuvenated, put some money in there, because I agree with you, that could be a great facility. Thank you. It needs work.
Good evening, town board members, community members. My name is Ed Slowshower. I have to first make a comment. With all due respect, Mr. Green, I respect the job that you do and your dedication to this community, but asking the high school students to leave this event tonight as they're here for their government class was highly inappropriate. I didn't know you had the authority to ask them all to leave.
I didn't have the authority. I asked the town workers, people who
Okay.
have seats.
I understand that, but these students are here to fulfill a requirement for their class.
I taught for 33 years. I
Okay.
know about the course.
I understand, and I respect the job that you do, but you know what? And this is my comment and not a comment of the Wappinger Central School District Board of Directors. I'm a board trustee. I took offense to that, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but the fact the students are here for a reason, and they didn't get to be here for that reason because we've now just started a public hearing. They're going to put on their report, I watched board members attack each other, and that's what they're going to hand in to their teacher. So I have to take offense to that, because my job as a trustee is to ensure that these students are getting the best quality education and they're being exposed to everything that's going on in their community. So again, I highly respect the job you do. I just felt what you did was inappropriate. That's my personal opinion. With that being said, I'm also a little disappointed once again in the behavior of this board. I understand, and once again, and I had mentioned this many months ago, that board meetings are for town board business. These are issues, gentlemen, you should be discussing in executive session, and I'll leave it at that. So I'd just like to move on. Some of my questions have been answered already. I just want to get some clarity. I was trying to take some notes. And if, Tom, if you could just please clarify, because as I'm aware as well, coming up for 2017, there are no rebates, whether municipalities stay under the tax cap moving forward.
For non-school districts.
Well, non-school, correct. Okay, thank you. I was taking some additional notes, and it seems to me there are two issues here. The first issue is what's transpired in the Highway Department over the last 10 years before Mr. McCullough took office. And I think they're two separate conversations. And I do believe it's important that the community knows how many roads were paved over the last decade and what was spent on it. Because taking a look at the budget online for the last few years, there is no line item for pavement. it's lumped in to drainage. So if you have $800,000, how, when we look at it, how are we supposed to know what went to drainage and what went to paving? I think that's a concern. I think moving forward, and I'm just throwing this out there, Mark, that should be a separate, in my
It
opinion,
is,
should
we
be a
actually
separate line item.
We did separate it out
moving
about
forward.
3 years ago. It is separate now, and it has been for the last 3 years.
I'm saying, but we're talking, the gentlemen are talking
Oh,
about from
yeah,
10,
going
I
back-
understand that,
I'm
I'm
not
just saying
gonna-
from 10 years ago, that's kind of an unknown. And I just think moving forward, if you're trying to convince the community that we need to do this project, I think they need to have a clear understanding as to where their money went and why it was spent. If there were emergencies for drainage, there were emergencies for drainage. If you had to take some money out of paving to address Worley Hill or some of the other areas, then obviously, you're making that judgment decision, and the highway superintendent at that time is making that judgment decision. What's more important? If there's an emergency, there's an emergency. It doesn't indicate that in those budgets. I think that's just a concern, and I think that's what the councilman was trying to explain to everybody. And I think it would be good for the community to understand where their money has gone and why exactly we're in the position that we are in today, unforeseen circumstances. Now, again, we've talked about this, revenue. We've lost money on mortgage tax. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. From 14 to 15, home sales in East Fishkill have declined 9%. I'm not sure what the 15 to 16 number is as of yet, so I'm going back a little bit. I don't know if we've made some progress. But if you drive around our community, there are for sale signs all over the place. And right on 376, you have 3 houses for sale with 3 different signs. That's a concern. There seems to be a feeling within the community that certain percentage don't want to be here anymore, for whatever those reasons are. They could be retiring, personal things change, I don't know. But if you drive around this community, there's an enormous amount of for sale signs. And as the councilman mentioned, if taxes go up, are we going to be able to attract more people, or is that going to be a turnoff? And that's the same problem over on the school district side with school tax. A little bit here, a little bit there, people make a decision, do I want to come here, do I not want to come here? And again, we have a lot of vacant retail. We're building, we're building, we're building. The plan on 52, obviously, it's a great visionary plan, and I believe that, and I support it, and I believe we have to move forward with that. But we have to also take that into consideration. Home sales are just not happening here. And taxpayers themselves in terms of cost of living. Councilman brought up the Affordable Care Act. People are getting hit $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month increase in healthcare costs. We say $60, okay, it's $60, but for somebody now that has to find $500 and now some more money for the year, these are just things that I'm asking the board to take into consideration. Food costs as well. Everything keeps going up, gas and oil. It was low for a while, but if anyone's noticed, we're creeping back up again. So again, fixed income families, families that are on a strict budget, $62 can be the difference of, I got heat for this week or I don't have heat for this week. So again, asking the board to take those things into consideration. And the last thing, when we just go back to, real quick, just with, the idea of the paving, I mean, I can appreciate what the highway superintendent is trying to do. It looks like he's trying to, get on top of something that for whatever reason we were unable to get on top of in years past. But, this information, to me should be a little bit more readily available. I understand persons away and this and that. I mean, somebody should be able to walk into the office and open up a file cabinet and say, here are the, here's the paperwork. That's all. And hopefully, I believe that information, whether you guys make a decision tonight one way or the other, I still think that information should be released to the public. We should have an idea of, again, what happened and why we're at this point. And I know there's also been some talk selling off some assets, and I think we did talk about this when we had hearings and we approved the project for across the street. And I know on one side, we don't want to keep developing open space, we want to keep some open space. But again, if we do have an asset across the street, it's something I think we should look into, because if we have to move forward and we have something here, we have to make a decision. Are we going to keep this property? Are we going to sell some of it off? What are we going to do with it? If it's worth a couple of $1 million or $1 million, Again, if we're going to expand rec, or if we're going to do other things for the seniors, or we're going to do other things within the community, I mean, what's going to be our real purpose for that property moving forward? Because highways and paving's a problem today, there could be a different problem in 2 years or 3 years. So again, something for the board to consider, what are we going to do with that particular property across the street? I do want to make one quick comment, since I mentioned, I am happy that Dutchess County and our county executive did give us a $100,000 grant for the Route 52 corridor. The thing that really concerns me is the fact that it's probably our own money to begin with, because it took away our sales tax. So, from that standpoint, I would really ask the board to strongly consider either a letter or some type of advocacy in order to pressure Mr. Molinaro.
We'll be meeting with the county
We
executive.
need this money back. I mean, you gave us $100,000 back of the $325,000 that you took from us, you gave us our money back.
We will be meeting with the county executive.
Okay, I mean, again, that's every municipality, it's not just us, but I think we really need to get our local politicians involved, whoever. We don't agree with that. I mean, Mark's done a lot of great things for this community, don't get me wrong, but that wasn't one of them, and that's my opinion. I also want to mention that, you know, we do have the project across the street going up, and we do have the dome project going, although kind of moving at a snail's pace, but hopefully that will, you know, move forward once the spring comes. But I would strongly recommend to this board that if your decision is to raise taxes, under absolutely no circumstances, if a discussion of a pilot comes up with Mr. Carney or with the Faolis from Asadi for the dome, I can't see how the community would even support something like that. If you're going to ask us to raise, excuse me, you're going to ask us to increase our taxes to cover things, we cannot have these people not pay their fair share of taxes. And I know it's a bit of a slippery slope because we want to attract, okay? We want to attract businesses there.
A pilot does not always reflect a bargain. You know, sometimes you enter into a pilot.
I understand that, but that, when people say we're not going to, it always comes up in a conversation. And again, we're also losing a little bit of money, and not that, we're getting money, but we're losing money. And remember, the dome isn't a permanent structure, so we're not getting the full tax
I
rate
know very well
for that.
about the assessed value of that dome,
Okay,
certainly.
we've had this conversation when we talked about the dome, so just if there's some people here that are hearing it for the first time. I want to just go back, a couple of the other gentlemen just brought up a point. How much is in the paving budget currently, before?
Budget?
For
Oh,
paving?
well, I think, what, 600,000, I believe it is?
500 and 100 for 600 total.
Okay, so if you decide to pass the increase, that will generate another 1.4 million.
No, it'll generate another 800,000.
800,000 for this year.
Total would be 1.4 million.
1.4, okay. So, in doing the quick math, which was $62 per person times, what do we have, 28,000?
$300,000 house. Yeah.
Okay, but we don't have, it's 62 is our average price, right?
62 is roughly an average, but there's more like 14,000 parcels, not 20, there's 30,000 people, but not
Right,
everyone
but-
owns their independent.
Correct,
property.
okay. Okay. So the next point is if my taxes are $800, now my taxes are $862, and next year there will be $862. So we will continue to have
It stays in the budget.
the
Unless we
800,000,
remove it.
we will continue to have the 800,000 on top of our already baseline of 500 to 600,000.
Yeah, I mean, as the supervisor said, it's year to year, but yes.
The idea is...
If it was 800 and it becomes 862 for 1.4 million, if we keep the 1.4 the following year, it would stay at 862. Of course, it never stays at 862. There's, you know.
Other thing,
it's-
I'm just saying,
but yes.
simple, third grade, you know,
Yes.
that's all. Okay. And then the supervisor, you had mentioned that each year we were going to look at the paving budget to see whether or not we're going to allocate all those funds for actual paving.
We can only allocate funds on a year-by-year basis.
Okay, so, but the idea is to utilize that money for paving and paving only, not, again, commingle and use
No
it for
commingle,
something
yes.
else. And the same issue that may have occurred over the last decade where we're taking some of that money because there's a drainage emergency. So if people need to understand that if they're going to pay this extra money, it is going to strictly be for paving and paving only.
Yep.
And if we don't use that money for paving for that particular year, for whatever reason, we're going to have a carryover
Have a carryover or,
the next
yeah.
year. So our budget will have, I don't want to say a surplus, but let's say for whatever reason, the weather is so bad and Bill couldn't get to 2 roads that he
Right,
planned
right.
for
Could be
17
less of
and
a
they're
levy the
carryover
next
for
year.
18. That money is going to stay there and move forward.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my last point is, as we all know, once taxes are raised, they never, they're not going back
No.
down.
Maybe not.
They're not. The $62 is going to be paid, and, in 2 years, it's not going to come back, even if we do have increases in our mortgage tax, and if we do get our sales tax back, it's just the way of life. So I wanted to ask this question, and Tom, I'm not as familiar with municipal law as you are, so I wanted to ask you this question. If we're going to look on a yearly basis, if we're going to do a paving budget, and once these taxes are there and in place, they're not going to come back down. Are we allowed, as a municipality, to charge a yearly assessment per parcel? And then
No,
each year?
Not on a townwide basis for a project like this.
Okay,
You're only allowed to do that if you have a private street that you're going to bring up to town specs and then take over, then you're doing this, what they call frontage assessment to each property along.
okay. So you can't say, well, you know what, we're short money, we need everybody to buck up $50 for this year, and we're, $50 for this
I
year.
think
And then moving to the next year,
No.
have another resolution to pay, say, you know what, similar to the old days when I had some real estate, large properties, we had to have fuel
I think the
fuel
intent is,
assessments.
if this were, paving is a maintenance, it's not a capital project, but if it were a capital project, the town board would be able to establish a capital account, and
Right.
then each year, the money would go specifically into that account, could only be used for the capital project. I believe the intent is to do with this money the same as if it were a capital project.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the only reason I was just bringing that up, if it was allowable, is that if, for some reason, at some point, we don't need to do this anymore, the taxpayers now do not have to pay the $62. See, there's a way out. The other
town-
way, there isn't a way out.
Well, the town board would have to adjust the budget that year,
Okay.
take the money out, which would then reduce all the taxes for that year.
Right.
So every year, it has to go through this process to adopt the budget. So if under your scenario, they decided the program wasn't working or it was finished, they would then deduct the $800,000 from the highway budget. That would cause a reduction in the tax levy for the highway budget.
Right. I mean, then moving forward, theoretically, you'd have that $62 removed,
Correct.
but I don't see, the reason I was bringing it up is if there was a way
To guarantee that.
guarantee to get out.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was asking whether it was permissible to do this as a yearly assessment and renew, and then evaluate where we are with roads and
It's
with
done
revenue.
yearly, but it's part of the regular
Part of
budget.
the, right.
Right.
And where we would be on a yearly basis if there's a way out. Because as I said, once you raise it, it's never coming back down. So everybody needs to take that into consideration. Okay, that was it. I just wanted to share some of my comments, my concerns, and throw a couple of different things out there. I know this is a very difficult decision. I really think you need to just really consider how it affects everybody within the community. And I don't want to get into 500 people said I'm for it, and 500 people said I'm against it. The people out here have no proof of that unless they're the ones that actually told you, I want it or I don't want it. I just want you to factor in all the other costs that everyone is being hit with. I understand we have to look at our infrastructure and we have to rebuild our infrastructure. Again, working on budgets, and as we all talk about, the first thing we want to do is we want to try to reduce spending before we raise taxes. And I'm not sure whether you're able to do that at this point, because I don't think all the information with regards to what has transpired in the past, although it's not really going to affect the budget moving forward, and I'll just be repetitive this last time, whatever you guys decide to do tonight, that information needs to come out to the public. I think it's within the best interest of all of you who serve us. And I'm not putting the blame on anybody in the pit, whatever. For some reason, everybody seems to not know what was done and how much was spent and why certain things happened. And I think if we're going to talk about transparency as a community, which is what we are, and we're a great community, and we need to work together to solve our problems, and I think that's important. So I thank all of you very much.
I'd like to just quickly respond to this gentleman's comment. The reason I asked the town board if they could release the students was that we had many senior citizens and women here, and I love kids, I've been involved for years, but I didn't see one student offer his or her seat. I offered my seat to a senior citizen, and I believe they got a lot more out of the first hour than what they're hearing now. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to address a couple of issues. First one, that being Councilman Franco, regarding the conversation at the last meeting. I believe the terminology used was visits, how many visits there were at the Lime Kiln facility. And I believe that you said that there were between 1,000 and 1,500 visits per month. Does that sound accurate? And then tonight, you used two figures. The first figure, you said 544 members, and then subsequently, you used a 600 and something.
Yes, 544 residents, East Fishkill residents, and 131 members from Global Foundries.
I see, okay. So, based on the 1,000 to 1,500 visits per month, and 544 members, because I believe that other 100 and some odd number that you make mention of, they're freebies, is that correct? They do not pay any membership dues?
Global?
No, they're not
they
freebies.
do-
We have a
no, they
contract
pay-
with them that they pay a certain amount. I think it's $10 a year. We will be raising that come January 1st, or come the January reorganization meeting, but
okay.
that's all they're paying now.
Basically, it's,
Well, no,
free.
the thing is that the property was assessed about $1 million, and we paid $500,000 for it, so the way they looked at it was a mortgage.
okay.
We've had discussion.
Anyway, that's not
Yeah.
where I wanted to direct the
It's not a
conversation.
freebie, just so you understand.
Okay. Well, it's still $76,000 to the entire town of East Fishkill. My point being, at 544, or 600, if you choose that figure, that equates, if you use 1,000 to 1,500 visits per month, is something like 2 or 3 visits per person per month.
Keith, I wish I could make them go out there more, but I can't.
Well,
It's their choice, and they are I got these numbers, and they're active
sir, with all due
members.
respect, the point here is the tax burden on the entire town. That's, it's not a matter of, I wish I exercised more. Okay?
This is all part of our recreation
Well,
budget.
okay,
This has
but-
become, it's odd because, and I've talked to the comptroller about this, this is becoming a lightning rod when really it's just a service that we provide.
Well,
the
I wish
people of
that
East Fishkill.
service provided were closer to my home. It's approximately a 20-mile round trip for me to get to Lime Kiln Road, and I personally will never utilize it just because it is not easy for me to do. However, that probably is the same profile of anybody that lives about a 20-mile round trip to Lime Kiln Road who still has to pay for it.
It's also the same as somebody lives far away from, say, Red Wing or something like that also, sure.
Well,
Locality is a big part of why people frequent those.
Well, Red Wing's a little closer to me. It's been presented to this entire town board, including yourself, Mr. Supervisor, of proximity of recreation closer to me, and really didn't get that much attention. Anyway, moving forward, as far as Worley Homes and paving Worley Homes and the private water district, why not put a lien against the owner of the water district as far as if the roads have to be dug up to,
We have the authority, Tom. We can't put a lien to...
You mean after we pave it?
yeah.
Well, they would have to get a road opening permit, and then there's requirements for how it's rebid, or repaired, et cetera. Just like Central Hudson.
But they're not going to dig it up because they have no interest in digging up the main, so...
It was just a thought. I'm not an attorney, but it was just a thought of how to compel the owner of that water system to comply. On the note of the paving and the tax increase, I am not here as a result of any newspaper article I'm here as a result of my desire to opine on the tax increase. And before I make that comment or my opinion on the tax increase, I want to preface my comment with a compliment to the highway superintendent and his presence in my community. Hopefully his presence does in fact correct some of the neglect that's been ongoing for many, many years. So, thank you. Now, on the issue at hand, the 6.5% tax increase, some of this may be redundant. It's a prepared comment that I have. I would like to read it, if I may. And on that issue that will be voted this evening by our Town of East Fishkill elected officials, I strongly oppose the 6.5% tax increase. This is a tax increase that will continue to be levied for the next 20 years at the proposal of 10 miles per year and 200 plus miles in the town. That's 20 years, not 15 years. And that's according to what's been disseminated here in conversation. Disseminated, excuse me. The 6.5% tax increase has an exponential factor that if the tax levy is to raise, say, 2% next year, it will equate to a 2% on top of tonight's 6.5% increase. So it has an exponential factor over the many years. One of the many questions regarding this tax increase is what if? And I'll give you, for example, the town tax levy is a line item in our property tax. There are other line items. What if the county decided to do the same thing or a similar project simultaneously and wanted to raise our property tax? It's part of our property line items. What if the fire department needs a new truck or new equipment, say to service the project across the street? It's a line item in our property tax. What if the library wants? I can't imagine what they want, but it's a line item. What if the Hillside Lake residents have to pay for something they didn't want, which has potential? I think it's foolhardy to commit to a 20-year tax hike that has so many variables to it. There's ambiguity to it as far as what's going to get done when. I don't think that it has been put on the town website yet at Mr. McClellan's request, specifically what roads were going to get done. The other what if is going to be a very controversial and pivotal general election in less than 2 weeks. And there's a big what if there. So I think everybody should think about what if before you vote on 6.5% tax increase. Thank you.
Good evening, John Curzio, Stormville. Don Minicino sends his regards. He wanted to stick around, but he had to leave, but he just wanted to say hi to all of you. I have from the town website the list of proposed pay increases for elected officials. I know the board has said that they would not take an increase. I was wondering, as far as the other items on the list, as far as the deputy supervisor stipend, is that something, Mr. Cassidy, that?
You can have it.
Okay. And then as far as the highway superintendent, town clerk, tax receiver, and the justices, are they also refusing to accept the increase?
Haven't spoken to him about it.
Okay.
These are just put in the budget in anticipation.
Okay. As far as potential savings, I outlined a little list. I've said it at a previous meeting. I know it's fallen upon deaf ears, but I figured I'd give it one more go at it. Part-time employees currently, such as the council members, currently pay 15% into their health care. Full-time employees, such as the town supervisor, currently pay 10% into their health care, while the private sector on average pays between 20, 25% sometimes into their health care. Two town councilmen have the Empire Family Plan that costs the taxpayers $19,647.34 each. One councilman does not accept a health care plan. One councilman has the CDP-HP plan, and the supervisor also has the CDP-HP plan. One is a family plan that runs $17,580.72. The other is a double plan that runs $14,318.86. The councilman and supervisor also receive eye and dental plans at $1,809.66 each. And that as a result, means that the councilman, between salaries and benefits, make between $35,644 and $36,061, minus Mr. Franco, for 2 meetings a month in part-time work. I don't know any part-time employees in the private sector. I know we have 3 business owners up here that would give full-time benefits to part-time employees. On January, so that right alone, right there is a huge savings, which I think that should be addressed before we talk about any increase in taxes. We should be addressing that right there. The town, as previously discussed, the town tax receiver office became a full-time position on January 15th, 2010. At that time, the office took on 2 functions, and that was both that was both billing and receiving for the water and sewer districts. Since that time, that has been reduced to just 1 function. However, the office has remained a full-time position. That, however, runs a cost because the town tax receiver went from contributing 15% into health care down to 10%. The health care plan runs the taxpayers $18,614.88 per year. In addition to the financial standing of East Fishkill, this isn't something that's come upon the town overnight. Fairly recently, the state comptroller of the state of New York assessed 1,000 different municipalities in the state. That includes towns, cities, and counties, and 15 of 1,000, that's 1.5%, he rated severely fiscally stressed, and East Fishkill was one of them. That means at best, that means at least 98.5% of municipalities across the state are on more sound fiscal footing than East Fishkill. We were rated in the bottom 1.5%.
I don't believe that's correct.
That is correct.
And we just got the notification from the,
Yeah, we've been upgraded
we've been
by
upgraded.
2 notches.
Yeah.
so-
Well, and like I stated, this was from, previously, which is what I
Well, yes,
said before reading.
previously, yes, they,
And-
yeah,
and
we
that
only
was-
had $1 million left in the bank from $2
And
million.
that was to my point, Mr. Supervisor, that this isn't something that's happened overnight. That was,
And now we've,
that
now,
was, but that was to, create a backstory to it. So,
it was really based on fund balance. We'd used a lot of fund balance for
and that's-
storms and things of that nature. And we have a lot of cash outlays for across the street for the EPA project, which was just approved. So because the fund balance carries a large weight with the state auditors, they had downgraded us to that, whatever stress that was. As we were building our fund balance up to about $1.8 million, $2 million, they've elevated us again. And we should be getting reimbursement for the funds that we have out on the EPA project to something like $400,000 or $500,000 from the EPA in the next few weeks. And that'll go back to, next few months, that'll go back to our fund balance too.
and thank you, but my point was, just to reiterate, it's creating a backstory as to what brought us to this point. So that's not something I said is happened today or yesterday.
Oh, no,
This is,
I think we discussed the backstory, sure.
And the other thing, again, this is creating a timeline. Actually, I have the exact date right here, November 6, 2015, Moody's downgraded East Fishkill, the credit rating, and they said the downgrade reflects the town's weakened financial flexibility of following several years of fund balance draws,
Yep.
which you just mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, a large tax base with strong wealth levels and moderate debt and pension burden. Outlook, the negative outlook reflects the ongoing pressure on the town's financial position and ongoing challenge to management to return to structural balance. And then they give a list of what could be done to make the rating go up again.
Right.
So
Mark,
again, to
excuse me,
create. well,
Mark,
I-
what is our bond rating?
It's AA2.
AA2?
It didn't actually get downgraded. They did have a negative outlook, but no
Well-
downgrading.
Well, I have the article from Moody's, that's what they said.
Right, but we're AA2?
It's,
Okay, I was just curious.
well, I have the article, if you'd like to
Okay.
see it
I
afterwards.
just wanted to make sure the bond rating was correct.
Mhm. And also, I stepped out for a moment, so I'm not sure if anybody asked this during the time I was gone, but as far as recycling asphalt to reduce costs, are we using milling machines that would, for the asphalt, which would reduce the cost per ton, or is it brand new from an asphalt plant?
We've looked at that. I think the engineers already addressed that question, depending on the road base.
Mhm.
It'd be nice if you could just grind it and reheat it and reuse it, but if you don't have a good base, you can't. It doesn't work for most of our roads. We've looked at that.
And on that note, the county's able to do that because they're, on some of these roads, they stay after it. If they let the roads get to a condition where, some of our roads are, they couldn't even do it, but by staying on top of it, like there's this program that came out as far as a life cycle of pavement, and if you
Right.
invest in your pavement, say, every 7 years instead of waiting 20 years, you can do a program like the county does, but we're not there.
Thank you. And then, as far as to ensure that this money, if it is passed, actually does go to paving roads, is it possible to keep it in the general fund until the payment, almost like a lockbox, to have a check on that?
I'd never thought about that. I mean, we were just going to put it right in the highway paving budget. But I have a lot of faith in the highway superintendent. We will see the blacktop on the roads. We will get the tickets. We will know every ton that was put down.
Well,
So-
Mr. Super, just to point that out, is that the way paving's done for the last 4 or 5 years, when there's a paving program, it's bid out, it then comes to the town board, and the town board enters into the contract, authorizes the contract. So I don't want anyone to have the impression that the money's just turned over to the highway superintendent. The town board still, and it has the last several years, all the councilmen and the supervisor received the proposed roads to be paved, how much the bid is, and they voted a public meeting and award the bid for the paving of the roads. So that's been
point.
going on for at least
5, 6 years, I think.
5, 6
yeah.
years.
Yeah,
And
when
of course, the amount of mileage varies due to the cost of the blacktop in a given year, et cetera. But that is if you will, the lockbox is that it needs a majority vote of the town board for the contract to be signed.
And the contractor, yeah.
Thank you. And I was thinking about the implication of a decision such as this, and it's a huge decision that's upon the town board, and it's easy to make a decision that affects at-large 30,000 people roughly in this town. What's more difficult is to see how that decision affects one single person or one single family, and the effects that it has on them. Our young people, such as myself in this town, we don't want to drive the millennial generation out of this town because we'll have no future in this town. We don't want to drive our seniors out of this town who have dedicated their lives here and built families here. But $62 increase, some people, as you've mentioned, may have a smaller increase than that, but for those, any increase at all. What that could mean for a single person when you look at the consequences, someone may not be able to put gas in their car, oil in their oil tank to heat their home, or pay an electric bill, or buy a week of groceries for them if it's
Believe
a
me,
sole
we
person
understand.
or a
Absolutely.
couple. So
Yeah.
that's what we really have to be looking at when we have this decision before us as a town
we
and
understand that.
all of you as a board. So I think that that's the most important thing to be looking at, because, like I said, making a decision at large that affects 30,000 people, that's the easy part. To actually see one person and how it affects their life and how it affects a family.
We take it very seriously.
So that's all I have to say. I'm personally opposed to it. I don't think that it's something that should be done at this time. We're still on rocky financial footing, not only as a town, but as a state and as a country. People are still struggling to find good jobs. They haven't gotten increases in several years, and now we're asking them to do more or the same with less. And I don't think that it's an appropriate vote to approve at this time.
Understood.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Neshwat. I have homes and I have businesses in this town. The only thing that concerns me about the pavement, that the money does stay and goes for paving and repairing the roads. The gentleman answered a lot of questions for me prior to the young man that was speaking. Everything about the pavement has been asked and spoken about several times. The roads need to be repaired, whether we like it or not, whether, and I know it impacts 30,000 people in this town, whether it's by one or by lump sum. But the money has to be assured that it's going to that purpose and that purpose alone. Does it go into drainage? I don't think you can separate the pavement and the road from the drainage situation, because the other gentleman was worried about, they raised his road about 18 inches. Now I'm sure he has drainage issues in front of his house. He probably would like that to be fixed, along with the money that's being collected for this. Just one point to go back to our town lawyer. I wasn't going to speak about that until I came, but it seems like every other meeting there's something about the town lawyer's salary. You know, we have a lot of projects, and I can't tell you how much it costs for legal fees and in the private sector, in a sense. And probably one of the projects will pay your lawyer for at least 2 or 3 years as a town salary. And to correct someone called Mr. Franco a liar about the benefits. I was back there, and it was clearly stated that the benefits were the mandatory benefits, not the voluntary benefits.
Correct.
Which, one way or the other, is still the whole thing, and I was asking how much does he really get per year, and I was educated this time, and many times, because I've listened to this, and I saw this on TV, and it seems like there's a lot of time wasted on this salary in particular. I'm telling you, I've been in Dutchess County for 42 years. I've been in Hopewell for about close to 20 years. We have a hell of a bargain on the lawyer. I'm sorry, Tom, and I honestly think you deserve a lot more. Thank you. I just, if some of you can actually investigate how much truly a lawyer of this kind of experience gets from a project like one of the projects we've done in the past. I have no more projects in front of the town, so I actually, this speech is by my own freedom and has no benefits or anything of that nature, because I have no projects in front of the town. I have nothing to do. To go back to one more thing about the pavements. In '06, when I started the project on Robinson Lane and 376, the federal government was giving grants to the state, and they gave the grant for about $500,000 to have that turning lane from 376 onto Robinson Lane. Unfortunately, 1 week after I sold that project, I got contacted by DOT, the state DOT. They finally now are going to put that turning lane. I can't tell you how much of a problem for us, for
It's been 10 years.
consumers, everyone, how that side of that road, that shoulder looks every single year. It's been a nightmare. So I welcome any improvements in any road in the town, the state, the county, at any level. But I just would hope that you guys would really either put some kind of committee together or something of that nature to make sure that the money that is being allocated, if that is passed, for the repairing of the roads, does stay for the repairing of the roads. It doesn't go anywhere else. I mean, I know everybody wants to go back 10 years, 15 years. Let's not go back at all. That's never going to end. From this point onwards, any money collected for repairing of the roads, I would hope, and later on will demand that the money stays for repairing the roads. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. And I would like to that, I would just say that that is the intent, as I spoke with the highway superintendent and the town board, is basically a contract between us to do this work with those funds. Yes?
Good evening. My name is Claudia Heckert. I'm the receiver of taxes here in East Fishkill and also a lifelong resident, as many of you all are. Alluding to what Mr. Franco said when he first opened his speech, it's both a good and a bad thing that people are so passionate about things like the budget and our town, because we are a close-knit community and we do care about how our money is spent. And passions run high. I can say from personal experience that I've had some very intense, heated discussions with many members of the board sitting up here in the last week or so. It's not easy when we're talking about money. It's often uncomfortable for many people. Nobody likes to have to spend more than they must. I will say that working with most of the people at the front of the room, I see that we all do more with less every day. I'm very proud of my personal staff, both of whom are here this evening, to support the people that we work with every day in having to make a difficult decision. I value the opportunity to see where our money is being spent. I will also make a comment. I find it a little offensive and political that we're talking about throwing Granny off a cliff. I don't think that kind of rhetoric is positive toward making a difficult decision. I don't think it's helpful in providing information to make that decision. And a question was made about my office and whether or not I would accept a raise and what the budget for my office is. I am very comfortable saying that this year, in the 10 years that I have been elected and 12 years I've worked for the town, I have not always taken a raise. In fact, in 2 years, my raise was allocated to my deputy because I felt that was the right thing to do. This year, I am going to accept a 1.5% raise if that's what this board shall approve, because I do work hard, as do everybody else in this room, I'm sure. I will tell you that my office stopped doing the water and sewer billing. First, it started because of a personnel conflict several years ago, prior to Mark's being hired, and it was a necessity. And it was something that I was able to do, and I took over. And when we were told via the audit that that needed to come out of my office, it did. Speaking of shared services, it's now handled by my deputy under the supervisory of the finance office, and my office does what is my oath of office duty, which is receiving and re-levying said sewer and water rents. However, the town has grown, as we all know, and continues to grow. The water districts have gone, and sewer districts have gone from 4 water districts when I took office to 15 water districts and 5 sewer districts, with more coming across the street, the EPA site, the Superfund site.
Yep.
We're growing. We're a town that's growing, and growth is oftentimes a positive thing. But with that comes responsibilities, and you all have been elected to see that our funds are used wisely. And I think we, as a public, and speaking now as a resident, as a mother of 3, a single mother of 3 who is affected by a 6.5% tax hike, I can say that we have elected you to do a job in our collective best interests. And you also live in this town, you also raise families in this town. And I think that if we did not trust you to make this decision, then you wouldn't be sitting up there where you are. I would ask that that sign be removed, as it is offensive and is not in any way informational, and it's meant to be inflammatory, and it's unnecessary to the discussion. I'm all for passionate discussion. I don't think that that enhances the discussion in any way, and I look forward to hearing the rest of your comments from home, because now I have to go be mom. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Kieran Lawler. I'm a resident in Wikipedia, and I'm a member of the New York State Assembly. My office is here in Hopewell Junction. I was watching an old October 13th working meeting of the town board on television the other day, and I heard town board members say, everybody I talk to is happy with the tax increase. And I would say that I speak to as many or more town of East Fishkill residents, whether my neighbors or in my office, or the parents of my children's friends. I speak to as many East Fishkill residents as anyone, and no one has said that to me. So that didn't ring true. And I asked around, and people weren't happy with it. So I spoke with Councilman Marinaro, and we said, let's find out what people think. Let's let them know that this tax increase is going to happen. Let's let the people in this town know that we're going to go over the tax cap. And we did that, and we took a position against going over the tax cap. When I talk to people in every town that I represent, especially East Fishkill, they like the tax cap. The tax cap is working. And in extreme situations where you have a blighted city where you have to go over the tax cap, well, there's a mechanism for that, and you need a supermajority. Here, you just need the same 3 out of 5 that you need for any vote. But we're not in an extreme situation. So we put out a press release, and Councilman Franco, you quoted from it extensively. There was one quote you forgot to read when you were reading your statement before.
What's that?
We warned, don't let them distract you by killing the messenger. This meeting started today by killing the messenger. I had no intention of coming out here. I was in a sweatsuit doing homework with my kids with the meeting on in the background, and I was attacked. And I was attacked, and I was attacked. And I was called a liar because I said the town attorney gets benefits. The town attorney gets benefits.
Full benefits from East Fishkill.
I'm speaking now. You've had your chance. I did not say full benefits. Go back and read it. And in fact, when this gentleman here in the flannel shirt said benefits before, you said, oh, I meant full benefits. You had to come off your script there. And you misled again. And you're continuing to mislead because you're all nodding your heads and agreeing and saying, oh, these are mandatory benefits. These are mandatory benefits. They're only mandatory if you choose to make them mandatory by making him an employee versus putting the town attorney on a retainer. You made them mandatory. And that was the point. That's why I said, keep him as an independent contractor, and you don't have to pay the benefits. Now the town attorney compensation comes up a lot. You know why? Because in 2013, in 2014, in 2015, the #1 fiscal watchdog in the state, the Empire Center, highlighted the town attorney's compensation. E.J. McMahon, the most respected fiscal watchdog in this state, called it a sweetheart deal.
That's right.
That's why we talk about it. So when we're told, we have to increase your taxes, we have to break the cap, there's nothing left to cut. And we have a person who works for 2 municipalities, and I think it's even sweeter down in Cortland Manor. We have a town attorney who makes more than the governor. That's not alarming. That's not a red flag. We can't say, you know what, town attorney, maybe you should make less than the governor, and we can start moving on our way to not having to go over the tax cap and go back to the taxpayer again and again. And there's another key to this, why the town attorney's compensation always comes up. People tell me Tom Wood runs the town. I don't know what happens behind closed doors.
I can assure you Tom Wood does not run the town, sir.
I'm sure you would say that. I'm sure you would say that.
Of course I would, sir.
Yeah, that would make you irrelevant. I don't know who runs the town, but Tom Wood is very prevalent in this town. And we have a town attorney. The Journal News has highlighted our town attorney and his firm. I don't know if it's still going on, but at one point, when the Journal News reported on this, the town of Cortland pays their private rent at their private law firm. And his partner is on the payroll down there. And he actually took some compensation that he wasn't entitled to. And the reason that matters here, okay, who cares? Cortland Manor's in a different county, it's 30 miles away. If we have a key decision maker in this town, a key policy maker in this town who has no respect for the taxpayer, who has to take every penny on the table, that's a problem. And that tells me there's stuff to cut. That tells me going over the property tax is not necessary. That's why we highlight that. It's symbolic of the problem. And I enjoyed your gotcha line that you read there. Oh, Lawler's got he's got a membership at Lime Kiln.
You're welcome.
You consider me an active member? Because I've never set foot in there to use the facility. I filled out some paperwork for my children. They said, hey, you want to sign up for the gym? So that shows you that your numbers are flawed. And I would say the majority of people who are on your list are not active members. So knock me off your active member list, because I'm not an active member. An active member goes there. I've never gone there to use the facility. You'll never see my name signed in anywhere.
Okay.
The easiest thing in the world is to go back to the taxpayer. The tough decisions are saying, oh, we got to do something about Lime Kiln. Maybe we can sell some property. Those are the tough decisions. The easy thing is divide the number, come up with an average, and say, take another 65 from the taxpayer. That's the easiest thing to do. We shouldn't do that. We should defend the taxpayer. Everyone on that board is a Republican, except for Mandy's now a conservative, I guess. We're Republicans, okay? We live in a great town, and we're squeezing people every chance we get. The last option should be to go back to the taxpayer, especially when we have to go over the tax cap. And it's interesting in this town. This is a very undemocratic town. It's a one-party town. We don't allow primary elections. You know, and I heard a gentleman say before, and the town supervisor agreed. When you ran, the last time you had an opponent, you said, I respect the tax cap. The tax cap must be respected. So when you had to face the electorate, the last time you had to face the electorate, you didn't want to breach the tax cap. Now all of a sudden we have to.
It's not all of a sudden, sir. I think we made a lot of, we've explained the position tonight.
Do you think
I
a
have
municipal
said in the
attorney should
past
make more
that
than the
we will be
governor?
back under the tax cap
Do you think a
again.
municipal attorney should make more than the governor?
Excuse me?
Do you think a municipal attorney should make more than the governor?
I think he's worth more than the governor. What he does for our town is really impressive. When we meet with corporate attorneys that are making 2 or 3 times what he makes.
Stop. I've heard that fallacy before. Every law firm discounts steeply municipal work. It is a common practice.
And
more
that's
than
fine,
50%.
so it has been discounted
That's
by
a
a
false
third.
choice.
Well, let me just finish, if I may.
Just like the benefits
He's
are
got-
mandatory.
Excuse me, if I may finish, I think I'm going to answer
You
your
had your time,
question.
sir. Well,
I
I'm
say
done.
that-
I've defended the taxpayer. You can go
defend-
back to the
We
taxpayer.
do
and
love
take some
that
more.
also, sir.
So if we look at the tax rate, we're the lowest around. We're squeezing people so bad that we have the lowest tax rate. And by the way, here's, for your information, sir, Lawler continued, the cap-busting tax hike can't be blamed on unfunded mandates from the state when the
never had
town
any
invites the cost of unfunded mandates with a decision to make the part-time town attorney an employee with full benefits rather than an independent contractor. You said it yourself, sir.
I did not say full benefits.
It's right
That-
here.
that's not my-
Oh, that's a misquote. You're right. It can't be you.
Earlier today, someone said, you know, you should ask Tom Franco for an apology. He attacked you on television, called you a liar. I said, Tom Franco doesn't owe me an apology. He owes the people of this town an apology. Because I said Tom Wood gets benefits, and he gets benefits. He gets the benefits of an employee.
Sir, it's written right here. You said full benefits.
Those are benefits. Those are full benefits.
He
What's
gets
the
payroll-
definition of full
Ex-
benefits?
You just said
Excuse
before that
me.
you never said full benefits, and now
What
you're saying
benefits
that.
does Tom get with from the town of East Fishkill? What benefits?
He gets benefits. That's the point.
Excuse
He
me.
gets benefits.
Excuse me.
And he gets other benefits from
Would you let us,
municipality, okay?
Only the mandatory state and federal benefits. He doesn't take the health insurance, the eye or dental insurances. He does not participate in those benefits.
What benefits does Tom get?
Payroll tax, pension, and
Pension and
any
payroll
other
tax. He does
mandatory-
not take medical, he does not take dental.
Mr.
eyeglass.
Supervisor, I'd just like to, if I may,
Yes.
since the Assemblyman, nice to meet you, Mr. Lawler, tonight's the first time.
That's my pleasure.
After numerous attacks.
Numerous attacks.
This is a tired, old argument. It started by a disgruntled chief of police in the town of Cortland, with whom I did legal battle on behalf of the taxpayers of that town for over 12 years. He twisted and maligned myself and worked with some political people who worked with you when you ran or attempted to run for Congress in the past. And the Empire Institute has a list of, I am a part-time employee in 2 municipalities. So are over 750 other people who are listed in the Empire's website.
You're
which
always in the
is-
top 2 or 3, Tom. That's
No,
a fact.
I'm not.
Yes, you
I went there specifically after receiving your email.
The links were there.
Okay.
You could have went right
And
to
yeah, and I did that, and I'm not. So there's an incorrect statement. Number 2, you infer that I'm a double dipper. Double dipper,
The Empire Center said that.
yeah,
That's
on
a
your
quote.
prior
That's a
releases
quote.
2 years ago, you did that.
That's a quote.
Okay, a double dipper is a person who is retired, receiving a pension, and then gets a salary for doing the same job. Thirdly, if I were doing this as a contract attorney, I'd be charging $250, $300 an hour. I have,
True. Every firm discounts.
that's my discounted rate.
You wouldn't be
I
competitive.
have close to 40
Wouldn't be
years'
competitive.
experience as a municipal attorney, and that's the going dollar. I pay special counsel, there are special counsel for both towns that propose discounted rates in the mid-3s. So it's not, you're way off base. The town of Cortland provides me with benefits, that's why they pay me less per hour. It's all figured out in there. The state controller's office has come down and audited my situation because of the disgruntled former chief of police, which, by the way, that town board abolished the police department, gave the taxpayers a 4% tax reduction. But the Controller's Office had these false claims put in, they've come down, they spent days here in the town of East Fishkill, days in Cortland, they reviewed everything, they certified everything is in accordance with the state law. So perhaps you and the Assembly should change the law if you don't want people to be able to be members of the
And
bench.
that's kind of my point, Tom.
Okay.
That's when I said you don't have to take
Yeah,
everything.
but you have to do it. This is a state regulation.
I said-
Anyone who's paid as an employee in East Fishkill must, and you know this better than I, must be a member of the New York State retirement system. This board, in the past, when new members come on, what's one of their first questions when they look at the big pension bill? They say, Tom, we want to go out and get other pension to offer our employees. I said, unfortunately, you can't. The legislature has never amended the state constitution to give communities that option. So if you want to talk about unfunded mandates, the pension system, and it goes on. The New York State Health Insurance Plan, which we're offered, is negotiated in Albany between the state of New York and the unions in Albany and approved by the legislature. That's the plan that's offered to the employees. So I think before you come
Well, let me
down
respond.
here
Let me
and
respond.
attack a
No, no, no.
resident.
No, let me respond.
I
I'll
live in the
respond right now.
town. I work here. I think I try to put my heart into the
He
job
does.
here with the town. I'm not ripping off the taxpayer, and I resent the implication. And this is the second time you, a person who has never spoken to me one-on-one about it, your assistant, who probably is a full-time state employee when he wrote that press release, never, ever called me to talk to me about the situation. That, to me, is a basic human first before you disagree with anyone.
We're not reporters. We're not reporters. You mentioned you have to take this pension because you're choosing to be an employee, and the town is choosing to make you an employee. When I said you don't have to take every penny that isn't nailed down, I meant it. And since you brought it up, our office, I'll finish and then I'll let you go. Our office has saved about $250,000. We have 2 employees, plus me. 3-person operation there. We've saved $330,000 in 4 years. Of that, $100,000 is compensation that I chose not to take. So we don't have to wait around for a New York City-dominated legislature to save money. We can do it ourselves, and that's what leadership is. Instead of giving ourselves raises and going over the tax cap simultaneously, we can lead from the front. We can give a little back because the American people, and East Fishkill is an American town, all-American town, the American people haven't gotten a raise on average in 15 years. But their electric fees on their electric bill go up, their property taxes go up, and we always say, $50, $60, $100, and it all hurts, and it all takes away.
And you know what? The system that the town board established here when they hired me is saving an average of $65,000
Yeah, I've heard that. That's a great
a
talking
year.
point. I've heard it before. It doesn't mean that we're not
That
wasting.
was from a contractor,
If
though.
we wasted in the past, it
Number
doesn't mean we're not
two-
wasting in the present.
Number two, the in-house town engineering service that's been set up here is saving hundreds of $1,000s a year. Number three, we've gone out and shopped insurance and saved $500,000-$600.
We've done it
So
all-
the
we-
town,
But you
over the
haven't
last
done enough
11 years.
because you're taking an extreme
Well,
measure and
there's
going over
more
the
you
tax
try
cap.
to do.
No.
But you need
With
some
tax
help from your
town.
state partners, and we don't seem to get that from the
No,
state.
you start
No
with
town
yourselves. You
does.
start with yourselves.
No,
You wanna
I
have a
agree,
town
and I
government-
think we've
you
done a
wanna have
great
town
job in
government
this town.
be
I think the town
as
board
self-sufficient as you can.
has done an excellent job over the years with what they could do.
Of course they do, because they
And I
pay you
think-
$250,000 a year. What are you going to
most-
say?
Most
I
town
resent
board
that.
members, they don't just work 2 nights. Just like
didn't say that.
your colleagues in the legislature have a lot of other jobs, as do you. You're a part-timer. Is your job worth $79,000 a year?
No, I give back.
I
I give
don't
back
know.
a huge
I
chunk
don't
of it.
know. Do you take benefits from your employer in the
I get it
state?
through my wife.
No, through your wife.
She
And where,
does.
does she work for a public
She's a
employer?
full-time teacher.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm standing up for the taxpayers. You can talk around this issue all you want. Very few towns in our area, in this financial situation, are going over the tax cap. This is going to be a red flag for us in terms of real estate prices, in terms of filling the many vacant storefronts in our town, and it's a bad decision. We should go and look. We haven't even figured out where all the paving money went for the last 10 years, because the key person conveniently is away, and the other key person is conveniently ill. Before we go to tax the people of this town more, before we go and go over the tax cap in an extreme measure, we should look at everything. I'm pretty sure by highlighting 2 or 3 or 4 things tonight, we haven't looked at everything, because we can save more. We can get below that tax cap. Thank you.
And just, if I just would like to respond to the Assemblyman's comments, I mean, he accuses us of not doing the right thing. We are very stringent, working on behalf of the taxpayer. We take this very seriously. We work hard for the taxpayer. We've gone over the years. We've never been over the tax cap. You look at our rate per thousand, we're very low compared to the other towns. Many other towns have gone over the tax cap. I mean, you were saying like we're the only one. I believe there's a couple of towns going to be going over the tax cap in the next couple weeks besides us if we do vote this. This is purely for roads. I don't know how many people are going to want to buy a house on a road with potholes. It's probably not a good selling issue. I think you do deserve to have good roads in your town. I think it benefits everybody. So I'd just like to say that. About the town attorney, then let me just say this, and you weren't here, you maybe didn't hear it at home, but one of the things that everybody's looking at is shared services. So we share our assessor with another town. We share our planner with another town. We share our attorney with another town. Everybody seems to think shared service is the way to go. It seems to work for us. We've been doing this for quite a while now. As far as contracting out, I think what we would find out, as we've seen in the past, when you contract out engineering, planning, and the attorneys, that sometimes you don't get, number one, the service. You get a lot of billable hours that maybe weren't appropriate. By having a town attorney, a town engineer, and a town planner here, on the basis that we have it, it's incredible the amount of work that we get done. And when you talk about Mr. Wood and the important decisions that we make here in the town of East Fishkill, the Global Foundry subdivision wouldn't have happened without Mr. Wood, because he knows this stuff. He's a brilliant municipal attorney. Intensely complicated, subdividing a single campus into what we have now as an 8-lot subdivision, which is going to be very beneficial to the town of East Fishkill. When I need him, he's there. If you need him to come here, he comes here. We have conference call. We speak very often. And maybe that's something that should be considered, because he is invaluable, as are the rest of our professionals. And I'd like to say, as our receiver of taxes mentioned before, we work our tail off here for the taxpayers of the town of East Fishkill. We work very hard, and we really look at the budget. We've gone through this many, many times. Our budget is very lean. Now, we do have issues. Councilman Marinero and I disagree on Lime Kiln, absolutely. And we probably will continue to disagree on that. Sell property across the street? We can sell the property across the street. Do we want to sell it under duress? Do we want to sell it because we need to sell it? Or would we rather wait for the time when the right project comes along that will really serve maybe the senior population of the town? I don't want to have a fire sale over there just so I can put $1 million into the paving budget this year, and then next year we're going to be scratching our heads again. Believe me, we take this decision very seriously. We've spoken to a lot of people. And just one assemblyman, I understand that you say you talk to a lot of people and that they're all against it. Well, when I talk with people, and I'm all over town as my colleagues are, and we sit down and we say, look, our roads are in bad shape. This has happened over the years. We're not going to fix it overnight. We would like to have an increase of $62 per year on an average $300,000 house. But you will see where that money is going, because it will go right to blacktop. And when you talk to people, when you explain it to them a little bit, because I don't know if everybody explains it, or they just say raise taxes and put more paving, you talk to them and they get it. And a lot of them support this because they want good roads. We need good roads. And again, to your point about the houses not selling, you need good roads. Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to thank Bill Green for sending the students home so they weren't subjected to proselytizing by a career politician who would like to bring up a personal agenda about politics and the electoral process, which is factually incorrect. We do absolutely allow for a caucus and a primary system. They are not mutually exclusive. He is factually incorrect. And I'd like to thank the board for not engaging in the shouting match. I appreciate all you do. Mr. Wood, I'd like to personally thank you for always being available to me with legal questions. If you don't get back to me within the same day, at the end of the day, it's always within one business day. You are well worth your weight in gold, and I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Langtree. Excuse me, Langtree. I live in Four Corners. Not too many people in the town know me. There's probably, aside from my wife, 2 people in the room that know me. I maintain a very low profile. I'm an accountant and tax practitioner. And full disclosure, I'm here as a result of seeing Mr. Lawler's news release. And I'd just like to comment in general about the expenses of running a town, and I have utmost respect for the board. I'm sure it's a thankless task. I'm a registered Republican. I probably vote almost all the time straight Republican. And forgive me if I ramble a little bit, because I just made these notes while I was sitting here. I don't know anything about paving. I don't know much about lime kiln, but I do know about taxes. I do know about labor costs, and that's what I wanted to address, and that's really why I came here, because I spent 10 years with the IRS, 35 years in private practice, many, many small business clients. I have dealt with workers' comp issues, all kinds of employment tax issues, and I'm very well acquainted with just how much labor costs. It's different in the private sector. In the private sector, labor costs can drive you out of business. In the public sector, there's always the ability to tax. And I just wanted to say that the IRS has criteria to determine who's an employee and who's an independent contractor. It's not cut and dry, it's not black and white. There are 20 criteria. Sometimes a person might meet 7 or 8 of those criteria and be deemed to be an employee. Sometimes it takes more. But my point is that I have come across many clients over the years, business clients, who have tried, without much success, to characterize an employee, somebody that works for them, as an independent contractor. They go out of their way to try to paint somebody as an independent contractor. Why? Because they save a lot of money in payroll costs. Now, I don't pretend to know what the costs are for the town. I know earlier, Mark mentioned that Mr. Wood does not receive optional benefits, but of course there are mandated benefits. And I'm not familiar with all of those, but I know there's additional payroll costs. It seems to me that if Mr. Wood, and I'm going to rely on the numbers in this press release, it seems to me that if Mr. Wood spends most of his time in the town of Cortland and they pay him less, it's because he's more of an employee. And I have utmost respect. Mr. Wood, I have nothing against you personally. My stepdaughter is an attorney. I respect attorneys. I know what they get, and I know you're underpaid for what you do in general. However, it would seem to me that there's a real good chance that, put under the microscope, Mr. Wood would be an employee in Cortland, and it doesn't just go by hours. Maybe he wouldn't be an employee there. But it seems to me in this town, why would the town take on the extra expense of treating him as an employee when he probably should be considered an independent contractor? And it would probably pass muster with the IRS if he was treated as an independent contractor. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I just think that it might be just one line item, but it's incumbent upon the board to put every line item under the microscope, and wherever you can save money, you certainly should. And it just seems to me that that's one area that you might be able to save money.
I thank you for your comments. I just wanted to point out, sir, that the same test that you talk about with IRS was applied when the state controller was here, because obviously, if I didn't meet their criteria, I could not be a member of the pension system from both towns. So they did apply the same thing, but I have regular office hours here on a given day. I'm here under the control and direction of the town board, all the criteria, just some. So just so that you know, there's been some outside review of it.
Well, when it comes to the criteria,
Yeah.
it's not so much a matter of
No, I know we
proving
could,
that somebody's an employee.
right.
I'm sorry, proving that they're an independent contractor, it's more a matter of proving that they're an employee.
Correct, and that was what the state office of the controller came down and looked at.
Your point's well taken, but the IRS takes exception to when somebody is treated as an independent, not when they're treated as.
I'm going home.
Right.
Sir, sir, while you're over here, can I ask you a professional question? What those forensic audit analysis mean? Forensic auditing? What does that mean in reality?
Well, it means pretty much turning over every stone, auditing, know what it's all about. It's, when you look at all the source documents, you have to verify or do a sampling and verify, all the different expenses that they truly did take place.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
5-minute recess.
5-minute. 5-minute recess.
5 minutes. No, you never stretch your leg.